Okay, so this is going to be a slightly different cast. This is going to be the finals of Balcora Cup. This is going to be the winners' final. This has been a long time coming. I blame Cloaked entirely. He took ages to turn up, but it's not really his fault. He had to go on a road trip or something like that. Which is just and here he is actually. He's revealed himself. Cloaked is actually going to be co-casting these games with me, which I think should be pretty interesting. So we'll get both sides able to defend themselves because there's a lot of mistakes from both sides. I think both of us are kind of like, oh god, that was not a very good display. But
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, so yeah, Cloaked is with me, and also games. We played all 5 games, didn't we? So yeah, games 3, 4, and 5. You said.
Yep.
Um, Games 3, 4, and 5 are actually going to be from Cloak's perspective. Games 1 and 2 are going to be from my perspective. So it should be pretty interesting. Can you see this screen just fine, Cloaked? Like
Yeah, I'm looking at a downloading content
yeah, okay,
loading
good.
screen.
All right. So hopefully, when I click play now, it'll just work, and I won't have to do all this again. So we're just going to get into game 1 here. Now this is the finals, so it was a best of 5 rather than like the best of 3s that have been happening, similar to the Sandra versus Garzalik one. So yeah, let's just get into it. So yeah, obviously you know the players. It's me versus Cloaked. I've just said that. Um, and I've just caught the perfect time. If I remember correctly, this loading screen took a long time, but yeah. So this map, if I remember correctly, the first map was your choice. It was Fallen Lords, right?
Yeah,
Um,
Fallen Lords.
so that was like your very first choice as well. So like, what was the idea behind like Fallen Lords as a first pick? Is that just like a comfort map for you, or?
I think it's probably one of the better maps in the pool.
Hmm.
Um, it was probably my first pick map wise. I know we each banned a map, and you banned one of the other maps that I was planning on picking, so
Yeah.
that took that out of the equation.
I banned Angel Wing because I just can't. I don't like it. I don't like the
What's funny about it though is it's actually smaller than Fallen Lords distance wise.
Yeah,
Yes, it looks like a camper map, but it's actually a smaller map than some of the other maps in the
yeah,
pool, like Badlands and Storm Dust Clouds. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. They
yeah.
just look at it and go, "Oh, this is a camper map,"
I actually
but really, it's a little bit smaller than some of the other ones.
Yeah, I actually thought I used to think the opposite of kind of what you're saying right now. I looked at Angel Wing a long time ago and I was like, wow, this surely is a great map for like 1v1s and stuff because I mean look at the distance. It's really small, especially on the closest positions you can put it on. And
Hmm.
but over time it's kind of like yeah, it's close, but those 3 giant patches right next to each other, it's really difficult to break someone unless you go for like a really hard rush or something. Not that that is
Yeah, sure.
impossible, but I guess that map, especially at the low to mid level, I feel like just lends itself so heavily to like I'm just gonna defend because I need one probe basically to cover my entire RU operation. Um,
Yep, definitely.
but anyway, we're talking about a game that we're not even playing. This is Fallen Lords. I'm Vega because I was playing random, whereas Cloak's locked in on Higaran. So like, is that just because you didn't feel confident with the other races, or is it that you had strats building for Higaran, or because I know you've been playing
So
Homeworld like Higaran since 2003, probably not quite that long, but since the early 2000s ish. I don't know when you
yeah,
started.
so
Yeah.
Vagar was actually my original race, but I picked up Higaran shortly after that.
Mm,
So I'm very comfortable with both races. However, in the the patch that we're playing right now, I didn't like some of the changes that were made to Vagar. Um,
right.
I I think that um, some of the strats I like to use with Vagar weren't as good, and I just didn't feel as comfortable playing Vagar against Homeworld 1, so I decided to go with
Right.
Higaran.
Yeah. I definitely have to agree with you. There's been some very strange changes to Vega, but overall, I'd say I completely agree with your concern about their matchup against the Homeworld 1 race. I think it's actually, like, I don't think it's totally unbalanced, but I feel like it's easier for the Homeworld 1 player in that matchup, if you get what I mean. It's like, if you put equally skilled players against each other, I'd say the Homeworld one has like a 60% chance or maybe 70% chance to win. So just because like if they try to counter one thing from Homeworld one, like the race is so linear that it's just one step for them to get another tech out, and they can obviously produce both of those at the same time. And like Vega can only produce one unit class at a time, and it's like I don't know, the design of Homeworld one just lends itself to dealing with how Vega production works very well. So I feel like that's just the core issue of the race matchup. But yeah. So overall, you just picked Higaran because it was like I can probably deal with Homeworld one better with this race if it pops up. Obviously, you're well versed with both the Homeworld 2 races.
Yeah, and I was actually playing random Homeworld 2 earlier in the tournament,
Yeah.
but
Oh
for
yeah,
the
I remember
finals,
that.
I decided to lock in on Hig.
Yeah. So obviously we can't see you because it's from my perspective. So I guess
Well,
I'll.
that's because I just killed your probe, like I've been
Yeah.
doing
Yeah, it's been
quite a
really
bit
good
lately.
actually. Definitely no one else. No one else in the current player base, I feel, actually challenges Vision this much. Aside from myself, and I think there's a guy called Xenofix.
Yep.
He needs to work on other things, but his vision controls really. It's probably better than mine actually. He goes overboard with that a bit. He makes like 8 scouts at the start and throws probes like everywhere on the map, and it's sort of like wow, probably don't need that much vision, but each to their own, I guess. So yeah, I keep throwing probes out because in 2.4 the Vega scouts start off really slow, as you know. They start off with like 350 speed. It's so slow. So there's just no point trying to make scouts for vision control because the Higaran scouts will have ample time to actually shoot them down, as will the interceptors actually. Um, I don't really mind having slow scouts like that in the early. I mean, I feel like they are too slow, but I don't mind it too much because I feel like it makes the vision game for Vega more interesting. Like you actually have to use probes and then transition to scouts if you're getting the fighter speed, and I feel like there's a couple more decisions involved with it with such weak scouts. So I actually don't mind it overall, but I do feel like they're a bit sluggish, right? But whatever. Especially once you get the upgrades, they actually become the best in the game as they always have been. But so you're coming in now
All
with
right,
these
so let's
interceptors, yeah?
let's jump into this game. So I'm bringing in looks like 5 or 6 interceptors here,
Yeah,
and just applying some pressure. I'm trying to see what your build is mainly here. I'm if I get a couple collectors or interceptor kill, great. But
yeah,
mainly I'm just looking to see what kind of units you're building.
yeah,
This is kind of like almost a scouting attack.
yeah, yeah. And I wasn't too worried. Like as you're saying, this isn't a force that can end the game or anything. I also didn't think I'd lose any collectors because I actually got a little bit lucky. There was a spot open on the refinery for my collector to dock with as you came in. So, and I was really surprised to see that interceptor squadron over there that's fleeing. I was stunned to see that I actually got that to 1 because my interceptors were in evasive. So I must have got like really, really lucky with the rolls or something like that. But obviously, I'm not planning to win this fight. I'm just trying to like waste time so I can actually get a decent number of assault craft out.
Hmm And it
Neither
looks
of
like,
us, yeah,
do I get that one?
yeah, you do.
Yeah, okay. I got a kill here.
Also,
I'll
look at my
take it.
collector. He's like, because he was docked, now he's just
Yo,
flying over there
yeah.
doing nothing. Um, and I actually dock him again because I'm like, oh god, Cloak's probably noticed that. He's probably gunning
So I
for it.
kind of screw up here though. I didn't have that one
Yeah.
on my control group, so it did not dock with the rest of them. So
Oh,
I ended up
unfortunate.
trading 1 for 1 there.
Yeah. Little trades, honestly, even 1-0 either way probably wouldn't have been game ending. I tried to throw my scout away, just purely negligent from me. I think it goes all the way to your mothership or something like that. Oh no, it gets away. There we go. So yeah, I've got 3 patches here, and your carrier is still not out, right? Because you're Higaran, and you're still on fighters. And my fighter count obviously isn't quite as high as yours, but I could like stall a fight out if I needed to. And I'm not like in my head, right? I'm kind of thinking you're probably not gonna come attack me with anything else in the next couple of minutes. So I just think to myself, right, I'm kind of expecting you to try and go for like the destroyers because this is obviously just what's going through my head. It might have been completely untrue, but every single game I've seen from you so far has been very destroyer focused. Like I think it's your favorite playstyle. I don't know if that's fair to say. Um,
Oh, definitely. It was the standard back in the day. It's a very good unit to push with as
yep,
well as defend with,
yep.
and it works quite well.
Yeah, so I'm kind of banking on you going for these destroyers because obviously this fourth patch I'm taking in such an exposed position as well. Oh, by the way, look, I don't have my refinery placed. I placed platforms down. I forgot to put a refinery, so all my collectors out of that patch are long distancing by accident. Another huge mistake, but basically, trying to focus on the good rather than the bad. I'm kind of banking on you going for that destroyer comp, which won't hit me for like at least several minutes from now. So I'm trying to take a fourth patch in the interim time, and then just try and sort of just have so much economy that I can kind of face roll the game. Because I think I said it after the series was done, but I was like, Jesus Christ, my micro is so bad. Like I can deal with the micro in the early game, and I think I'm fairly decent at like multi-pronged harass and stuff like that. But when it comes to like the
Yep.
big death balls in the late game, I just don't have the experience because I never try and go for that comp naturally. So like
Hmm.
my experience of that in the 1v1 is really limited. I'm actually getting lance beams as well right now, which keep yeah. If you're watching this video, keep a note of that lance beam technology. It's really important in this game. Um, so yeah, your destroyer is popping out now, but I'm kind of worried that you're about to just push in right now because as you can see, I really don't have anything to deal with it. I'm trying to get the
Yeah.
laser tech, but it's still not finished. Like so, yeah, like obviously the laser tech was because I again was thinking you were making destroyers, so I thought I'm not going to make heavy missiles. I'm just going to go for lasers.
Yeah, honestly, I probably could have pushed in with that destroyer right here,
Yeah.
but at the time I did not have vision to see
Mm,
what you had, and I ended up kind of focusing on my build. At this point, I'm trying to transition from interceptors into my next unit and focusing on my base and not so much on attacking.
right. Okay. Yeah. So again, that was kind of like I've seen you do that in the previous games. I was hoping that you'd go for that because, like I just said, you had that destroyer at a time where, I mean, I haven't even got one laser corvette right now. That destroyer probably could have boated up to me and killed a couple of collectors. I don't know if it would have been worth it, but I was kind of afraid of that. But yeah, so I'm putting I think I just put a dock like stay dock command on some of my carriers or something. I don't know. So I'm just scouting around and I see the pulsars and I'm like, oh, I don't have anything to deal with pulsars. But I think I squeeze out a couple of lances, right?
Yeah,
Hopefully I do.
I think you got two or three lances.
Yeah. Because I can't really dedicate anything to missile corvettes. I don't really have the time of day to be making missile corvettes because you've got the destroyers and like I know how strong destroyers are. Like if you give them a chance, they'll just roll you. So I really need to like pile up as many lasers as possible. Another reason I'm getting the lasers is because like lasers kill refineries and collectors so fast that I feel like you can't really stop them with the unit composition you have. Like the pulsars would be pretty good, but the best units that kill lasers, in my opinion, is actually bombers. So, but most people don't know that. Most people try and make pulsars and stuff against them, but the problem with the pulsars is they're only as fast as lasers, right? So the lasers can swoop in, kill a refinery or a collector or something, and then just leave and get away scot free. Whereas the bombers actually outspeed them slightly, and while they're chasing them, they just absolutely murder them. Especially Hikaran bombers, I found. But yeah, so I'm kind of happy with the unit composition. What were you thinking at this stage of the game? Were you just like, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing? Because you're saying you didn't have great vision, so what were you worried about?
Yeah, so at this point in time, I'm waiting for a couple destroyers and really building up my anti swarm forces.
Yeah.
Because if I was going to try to push in with one destroyer, I
Yep.
might get a little work done, but likely you're just going to pull back a bit, kill
Yep.
my destroyer
Yep.
engines with your Vagrant swarm superiority, and then I really can take a bad risk if
Yep.
I try to engage you on swarm away from my deck.
Yeah.
So at this point, I was just kind of looking to build up my fleet and wait for a good opportunity to
hmm
push in.
So I'm coming in now with all my ACs to try and kill some collectors because I saw that you had like 4 or 5 interceptors trying to chase that one scout over there. So I kind of figured I can probably take a fight here pretty decently, and then run away. But it was kind of dicey just because the mothership is so strong. I feel like we traded about evenly on the interceptor counts here. But I did get a collector, right? The other thing I'm doing right now is that I'm killing a lot of pulsars. Like, I think I've killed one already. And another one's on 2 out of 3. I think you actually killed my lance fighter. No, 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 look, they got away. Wait, did they? Oh no, he died, look. That's unfortunate. That little triangle there that died was a lance fighter, but yeah, so I actually, I don't remember trading this well, but yeah, it looks like I traded pretty well against your interceptors here. Um, that pulsar was really annoying. I saw that pulsar with 1 out of 3 and I was like, god damn it. But I had no time to turn around and catch that. So basically what I'm doing here is like, my plan is to try and trade with you constantly throughout the game. The reason for that is because I'm on 4 patches and you're on 3. Even if I'm trading equally with you, that's good for me because I just will have more money than you, so I can afford to lose units, whereas you can't. That's my plan anyway. I don't know if that's like watertight. I feel like you can probably get a really decent economy on 3 bases just fine, but that was my idea, I guess, going into this game. So that's
Okay.
why I was being so aggressive in the early game when I didn't have to be. Like, obviously, this AC push killed 1 collector. That was the only, like, permanent damage I did. But I was happy with it anyway because I was just trying to trade with you.
Yeah, so harvester wise, this game, I do have the full 22 collectors,
Yeah.
but I've got 8 on the front patch and then 7 on the back 2 patches. So
Mm,
it's a little less efficient than having, 4 patches, say 5 or 6 on each.
yeah.
So efficiency wise, you're going to be harvesting, at least 5% better than me, maybe even 10% better than me.
Right, yeah. And that's why I'm trading with you, right? Because it's like, if we trade all these units and then we have to rebuild our forces, I'm just going to have that 10% larger rebuild. Um, and then I'll be able to like edge that advantage and just keep that cycle moving. Um, I don't know how well that strategy actually plays out against destroyers, because the thing about destroyers is they're sort of like designed to be cost efficient. Like heavy missiles will probably do more damage per second, but you can't kill the destroyers, so they just never die, and so you never have to rebuild them, and so they're actually like a really cost efficient unit to build. Um,
Oh, definitely.
so that I feel like this sort of trading.
So some might call it the most cost efficient ship in the game.
Yeah, I gotta agree. Like, I really don't feel like there's any other unit that comes close, right? Specifically the Hagaran Destroyer, right? Like, the Vega Destroyer is kind of the same, but obviously you've got the capital armor upgrade and stuff. The Homeworld 1 Destroyer is just a completely different unit, to be honest. It's like, it does the same kind of stuff once it's out, but the tech to get there and the way it's used is just so different. But I wouldn't call it kind of the same sort of deal. But the Hagaran Destroyer, it's low tech, the upgrade's quite cheap. The unit itself is really cheap for what it does, I
Yeah.
think. It's just,
So
yeah, go on.
so let's jump in here. I'm pushing out. I've got 3 destroyers. I feel like you don't have enough to really counter this at this point.
Yep.
I'm looking at your fleet going, okay, yes, you've got a ton of lasers. I might lose at a destroyer before my pulsar kill all your lasers. So I'm going to go in, see if I can get some collectors, do some damage with this push. However, in retrospect, um, I'm not so sure this was a great idea.
No, this is too many lasers, right? You needed at least 3 or 4 torpedoes, in my opinion. Like, because if you look at their pulsars, they'll kill the lasers. There's like lasers don't kill pulsars. It's a losing matchup, obviously, but I feel like the pulsars just don't kill the lasers as fast as the lasers can do their job. And the thing about destroyers is we were just talking about how cost efficient they are. That's true for the RUs, but they are terribly cost inefficient when it comes to time. I feel like the build time on a destroyer is really high for like the actual damage and all the kind of stuff that it produces. So losing a destroyer is like you can lose the same value of frigates, and you can recover from that quite quickly, just because you have more queues and stuff like that. Whereas if you lose a destroyer, um, it sets you behind for a long time. You might have not lost many RUs, but the time you spent. And to be honest, yeah, you can see these lance fighters flying around now, and they are massacring these pulsars. Like, Just look at the pulsars; it's just evaporating. Like the missile corvettes are helping a lot. I feel. But yeah, there's one. There goes another one. There goes another one. This one's about to die.
Yeah, this is exactly what I did not expect. I went in with full pulsar, expecting them to, slowly but surely take out all your laser corvettes, and instead, I think you only had two lance fighters, and your two lance fighters killed pretty much most of my pulsar,
Yeah,
long before I had a chance to, make my plan work.
yeah.
And you know, Lance are extremely powerful in the the patch that we're playing right now, and I know AOH and H um, noticed it and
Yep.
and was complaining about it a couple weeks ago. How in his words, crazy OP Lance are
Mm,
at the moment. And in this engagement, I
you felt the
made a
same.
huge mistake. I saw two Lance, and I'm like, oh, they're just two Lance. I'll just ignore them. And
Yeah.
next time I look back, all my pulsar were gone.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely have to agree. I do feel like they're overtuned right now. And I feel like I don't know. It's really hard to tell because of like RNG weapons and stuff. I feel like I got really lucky for my lancers here. Like they just happened to trail the correct pulsars, and they happened to get all the high rolls on their accuracy checks and stuff like that. But definitely, two lancers shouldn't kill pulsars quite that fast. I have to agree. I mean, the missile corvettes were there as well, and that's another thing. Like the missile corvettes, in 2.4, as we discussed, they have a losing matchup with the pulsars. It's like actually quite a bad losing matchup.
Yeah.
Um, so you need the lancers, right? At the moment, like I'm not saying that's the ideal state of the game and how it should be, but right now it's like you have to have the lancers, otherwise, like the pulsars, just you can't really beat them.
Yeah, and that point you brought up about missile corvette health being low, and they're always losing to pulsar at the moment. That is one of the main reasons why I decided not to play Vagrant
Mm,
or Random Homeworld 2 for the finals.
right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Because yeah, it was done. I think it was like an incremental change that happened just over time, like over 3 or 4 patches. It was like definitely part of it was when the Vega difference between the base health and the upgrade health was narrowed. I'm pretty sure the upgrade health actually landed lower than it used to be, or something like that. Anyway, God, we keep going on tangents about the units, but yeah, coming back in here, I see that you just don't have any pulsars like in a significant number that can stop my laser corvettes from doing like critical damage. The units that you absolutely can't lose right now, like the flak frigates and any like Higaran's advanced frigates in this scenario are like the peripheral units that ensure that their other units do okay. Like for example, the flak frigates help you in the fighter battle, and the torpedo frigates help you in the vet battle. Um,
Yep.
and the laser corvettes just say, well, I'm just going to do one pass and that frigate's gone. Especially with no armor upgrade, which I believe you don't have it right now because that would be
Nope.
quite the expenditure.
Yeah.
It's like standard not to get the upgrades on the flax until much later anyway, right?
Yeah, usually you just want to keep a flak to deter fighters.
Yep.
You want to keep it away from any lasers, because
Yeah.
even with the upgrade, it's just going to pop so
Yeah.
fast.
As you can see, I'm like actually I don't know how much of an effect this had on you, but I had you completely in distortion fields here. Um, the 2.4 distortion field's really, really, really strong. It's like it's not quite twice as powerful as it used to be, but it's something like unexpectedly high. Um, I guess I'm like right on top of you, so it doesn't matter that much. But I'm pretty sure you probably don't have much vision of like my carriers and stuff like that. I have no idea, to be honest, because obviously I can't see the effect it's having on you because you're my opponent. I guess you don't remember if it had a good effect on you or not.
It definitely did help. It makes it harder to see your units,
Mm.
and I think I ended up using one myself in one of the games
Yeah,
later
you
on.
did. It was really annoying actually. I thought, why can't I? Where are his units going? And I was like, oh, he must have a distortion probe. Um, but yeah, in this game, it's sort of like I'm kind of maxing out on everything. As you can see, I'm just throwing in platforms now. Um, yeah, the lancers are just eviscerating pulsars over there. Like, it's true that the lancers are really vulnerable, and they're quite expensive for like one squad. But the killing power is so insane. If you don't have like interceptors on hand to deal with them, it's really rough. I will say though, actually, um, the Higaran gunship in 2.4 is you should build gunships instead of flags. Um, Like 100%. That's my opinion. Like I'm not like joking around. Like the Higaran gunship is better than the flak in my opinion. It definitely has
Yeah,
an
it's really good.
has an even matchup with the lancers, and you've seen how good lancers are
Yep.
against
Yeah,
corvettes.
it's really good right now. I agree.
Um, yeah, especially against like laser corvette composition, I would have preferred like just 2 or 3 gunships to be thrown in there because it would have made so much difference for the fighter battle. Because if you had the fighter advantage here, um, like I'm fully committed into like frigate technology right now. Like catching a Vega with their pants down on the technology switch like that is obviously pretty good. But at this point, I'm on triple fire control fields over there. I've got a ball of heavy missiles that I'm just reinforcing constantly. Um, the lasers now just have free reign over the back patches. I'm just killing collectors, killing
Yeah,
frigates.
I'm in real dire straits right now. I lost all my pulsar and most of my interceptors in that initial battle,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, once you lose the swarm to Vagar, you're basically out of it.
Yep.
At this point, I'm pumping some destroyers up front to keep your frigates and platforms at bay,
Yep.
but the swarm, I'm just too far behind, and I'm never able to recover after losing that initial battle up front with the 3 destroyers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, once it's the way Homeworld works, right? Once you lose on one front, a good opponent will just completely abuse that, and the game is almost becomes unsalvageable. Like, you lost the fighter battle, and that was it, because it's just like your economy's gonna die. You might be able to like this is obviously a really good hold from these destroyers, but you could micro these destroyers perfectly. You could even have defense fields and repairing collectors and all sorts here. It's just sort of at this point for me, um, like I don't really have to even think about my gameplay. It's sort of just I have so much money coming in that I can just fart units on you. It's like look at these. I'm just like making platforms. I actually was like, oh, I'm
I
still making
know.
platforms. Oh, whoops, I was meant to make frigates, but it was like it's like you can't do anything in this scenario. I was checking my back because I'm actually not floating. I thought I must be floating. No, I thought I must be like jammed on a patch or something because I'm not researching anything, but I'm still not like banking up RUs. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, as I said, the final destroyer goes down just to units sitting in fire control towers. Another one valiantly comes out here, I think. I think you've got a cloak active or something like that. Because yeah, there it is. But like I said, at this point, I think you've lost the patch at the back. I'm pretty sure I kill a carrier soon as well. Um, just because the laser corvettes is like there's nothing to be done about them.
Yep. Yeah, once you lose Swarm versus Vagar, the lasers just come in and roll everything.
Yep,
There goes your patches. There goes any of your frigates that you had on the map, and
yep,
good luck trying to regain Swarm control once it's gone.
yep, absolutely. Obviously, I'm just throwing proxies out now because, as you can see, I've got float. I'm like, well, what do I build here? I think I get destroyer tech. Just I keep saying it. I've just got so much money. It's less about the gameplay from both of us at this point. It's more about just um, I'm just gonna make a bunch of units. Um, like you could put an AI in my situation now, and they would probably put up a decent fight just because of how far ahead I am. Obviously, the destroyers are trading really well because it's platforms and heavy missiles. Um, but they're in triple fire control, so they'll do alright. You try and cloak here, but obviously I've got the preemptive proxy detector. Um, so even the Valiant last stand and the cloak and stuff like that is not going to be enough. The fighter battle is like so scrappy. Like I'm not really microing it very well. Um, absolutely not microing it as well as you are. I feel like you're getting docks off, and I'm just losing units to the mothership and stuff like that. But um, yeah, it's just it's just brainless pushing at this point. The carrier at the back goes down. Like I will say, like you stuck in this game for longer than I thought you would. Um, was that just because it was finals or something? Because if I was in this scenario, I feel like I'd tap out, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Being finals. I mean, I honestly lost this game about 10 or so minutes ago,
Yeah,
but I'm trying everything I can to hang in here, and as you can see at this point, I'm losing both of my patches at the back, and my shipyard's about to go down. So it's just about over now. But
Yep.
I'm glad I at least dragged this game on and
Yep.
and gave myself an opportunity. If you would have made a big mistake or something and allowed me to come back into the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, if I lose a game like this where I'm in your scenario, but I trade so well like you did, I'm actually kind of happy with that because it's sort of like, well, obviously I wasn't going to win, but with the tools and resources that were available to me, like it was a really good performance. Like traded really well on the front, and to be honest, even on the back, I feel like your fighter trades and especially the Corvette trades, um, were definitely going your way. It's just like I said, I've got so much money pouring in that I'm just sipping my. I had a cup of water. I was just sipping that while watching the game unfold at some points because it was like it's just a money game, which was my plan from the start in a way. Like I said, I was just planning to out economy you and just push in with 1,000,000 units that you couldn't handle. But obviously, it was like you're saying, it was just completely like increased to an unmanageable level by that poor fighter battle at the very start, and the Lancers earlier that completely massacred the Pulsars. Um, yeah. So the
Yeah,
motherships up.
that first fight, usually I wouldn't want to engage in swarm like that versus Vaegir without at least some gunships or some flaks to
Hmm.
make sure I definitely win the fighter battle.
Yep.
I kind of looked at that fight though and went, okay, I think I can win Corvettes so well here that I don't care if laser kill one of my destroyers, and maybe I'll come out a little bit behind on fighters, but I'm gonna have so much of a Corvette lead. Who cares? And
Hmm.
and then the Lance just flipped that whole plan upside down on me.
Yep.
So
Yep. They
did not
really.
work the way I thought it did. And in retrospect, I should have just held back.
Yep. They really do their job. Like, I feel like that's true of a lot of the units. Like over the course of 2.3 and 2.4, like units in general have got better at doing what it says on the tooltip. Like, obviously there's examples like Lance Fighters where I feel like it's almost too good at what it does. But like for example, in 2.1, the gunship says anti-fighter. In reality, it loses to interceptors and bombers. It's like
Uh,
this thing is not anti-fighter at all. Whereas in 2.4, it's actually anti-fighter. Um, so I feel like a lot of units actually do what they're supposed to do in a way. Yeah, I had max carriers, so I couldn't capture this. I was like, oh. Um, but yeah, I feel like there's some units like the Lancefighter that might just be a tad too good. But I don't know.
mhm.
You could say uh, instead of nerfing Lancers, maybe the units that beat Lancers should just be better against Lancers. But I don't know. Then you get a bit of power creep going on. Then it's sort of like, oh, now everything's so good that it becomes StarCraft and things kill each other in 3 seconds. Which is obviously we don't want that. But yeah, GG's called. So a really simple game plan for me. Um, Kind of a surprising performance from the Lance Fighters, which made your initial push like disastrously bad.
Yeah.
Off a weaker economy as well. That was just like something you couldn't afford to happen, and it did happen. So I see you try and cloak your shipyard to scuttle kill me or something here. I don't think I noticed this during the actual game. I think my Corvettes might die here. But yeah, GG in game one. Um, Obviously, this is a best of 5, so this is by no means a completed series. I was pretty happy though getting the first win. I was sort of like, damn, what if Cloak's got some really
Oh,
secret source strategy to hit me with? But yeah.
look at that! I was surprised. I actually got more kills than you that
Oh,
game. I had 450 to your 300 and
oh
something.
yeah.
So
It was like I
after
was.
the initial trade, I guess I was doing some really good duck heal to stay in the game for a while.
Yeah, it's like I was saying. It's I just had 1,000,000,000 IUs, and I was like, I'm just gonna keep throwing units at him. He's gonna fall over. Like I was watching myself like during the end. I was like, damn, I'm not docking anything. My units are just dying all over the place. But it was like, well, I don't care. It's just a complete, like a Zerg rush, sort of like just 1,000,000 units everywhere. But yeah, really good game. So we're gonna take a break and then we'll get back into game two. All right, now, so this is going to be game 2. So we've just seen game 1 play out. It was a fairly standard sort of game that mostly came down to like an economy lead, but also a big part of it was like the lance fighters and stuff like that. Now all of that is to do with 2.4, right? So 2.4 is obviously the balance patch that is everyone's currently using, and it's what the tournament's running on. But the author of 2.4 has decided to take a break. He's left the game. So, and that's a problem because the way Steam mods work is that only the author can actually publish the mod. You can't hand it to someone else. So 2.4 is actually dead in the water right now, which is a big problem because it's not actually bad. I feel like I wouldn't mind playing on this version of the game for a while longer, but it does have issues. As you can actually see there, we wanted to talk about 2.4 a bit, but I've just sent my scout in the complete wrong direction because I'm so used to playing on position 1 on this map that I actually sent my scout backwards. But anyway, back to this. So we've got to basically get 2.4 in its current state, and we're planning to migrate it back into the 2.3 mod, which so a lot of people already have 2.3 installed. I think it's fair to say most people who have 2.4 probably also have 2.3, just because it appeals to the same crowd and then some. So like mod adoption shouldn't be an issue, but like actually translating everything and obviously merging, like I've got a branch on the GitHub that's got all the 2.4 stuff on it. I've got to merge that into another branch, and then I'm going to publish that branch, and then we're going to have to go over all the differences and see what we're going to keep and what we're not going to keep. And yeah, it's probably going to take like a week or two. Hopefully it won't take too long because it's kind of annoying to be stuck on a patch for so long. But I mean, what do you think is like really outstanding that needs to be changed? Like maybe lance fighters or something?
You know, I guess we'll probably have to walk through the changes together, but just kind of bigger picture, I took a break back in the summer of last year, and around that time, the 2.4 patch came out, and basically they took a copy of the 2.3 patch and added a feature called dual command, so you could control
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
two
That was
different
the big
players,
gimmick of
and
the mod. Initially, it was
yep.
like, look at this, you can command 2 guys. Isn't that amazing?
So that was the initial premise of the dual command mod, and it was called the dual command mod for about 6 months until a month ago when they renamed it to 2.4.
Yeah,
Um, so future plans is to pull the improvements that have been made in 2.4 back into the 2.3 players patch. And it was based on the 2.3 players patch. It made some additional balance changes. It made some additional bug fixes, and
yeah,
now we're looking to pull in the good stuff back into the main mod.
absolutely. Um, just to get back into the actual game, just a quick sec. So I'm going for a hypertorp here. Because I was kind of expecting. So after that last game, which was kind of a very orthodox opener, I guess you could say. Like, yes, I got an early carrier, I suppose, but it was, both of us opened with fighters. It was quite a sort of typical run of the mill Homeworld 2 versus Homeworld 2 matchup. So I was kind of thinking you might not expect me to pull out some sort of cheesy, like, rush style type thing like Hypertorp. Um, and I believe that your scouts actually didn't quite see my carrier at this point. But I don't know if they actually come back into view or something like that. But I have good vision of you, and I'm seeing that you've only got one fighter facility. Just going off memory, I think you only had one fighter facility at this point.
Yep.
And the other thing that I saw is that you didn't have a research module. So if you wanted to stop these torpedoes with a grav well or something like that, it's not going to be up in time. Basically, my torpedo is almost ready. Actually, move my carrier forward just a bit so I can get the slightly cheaper hyperspace. Definitely not the best timing for a hypertorp. Like, you can get faster ones, you can get later ones. I feel like this is a fairly standard-ish. Obviously, it's not a very clean build. I'm sure there's builds out there that get them at a very specific time and stuff like that. But so I hyperspace it directly into your like the middle of your patch, and honestly, my screen probably doesn't capture it. But did you actually kamikaze collectors to kill this torpedo? Because it went down
So
very quickly. I didn't expect it to die so fast.
I ended up deciding to build some bombers here. I
Right.
already
Okay.
had a couple interceptors, and I think I built 2 bombers, and I might have even had a pulsar corvette. So
I see.
between all
Yeah.
of that, I felt like I could take it down fairly quickly.
Okay, that's probably
I might have been docked with a few. Yes, you see him just coming out of the dock. So I was trying to
okay.
hide what I
Okay.
was building. So my reaction here was a little bit slower than it could have been.
I see. Yeah. Okay. Because obviously the torpedo frigate is the weakest frigate in the game in terms of its health pool. Um, it starts out with 14,000. It only upgrades to what does it upgrade to? Like 8? I don't remember what it upgrades to. Jesus Christ, that's bad. It's still low anyway. It's like the lowest health frigate in the game. So a couple of bombers and a pulsar is easily enough to deal with that. But I do get 2 or 3 collectors. I don't know if it was worth it. Honestly, I feel like it was almost a break even. Um, Obviously, the price of the collectors makes it seem like the torpedoes weren't that good. But you have to consider, I killed the resources that they were holding. You've got downtime on the mining and things like that. So I don't think this was the best hypertorp, but I also feel like it was decent-ish. Um, I feel like you came out maybe slightly ahead. I'd say it was about even, to be honest. I definitely didn't
Yeah,
get a lead off this or anything like that, like I
yeah.
hoped I was going to. Um, in the back here, I really got greedy. I was kind of worried that you'd just immediately rush me here. Because that's like a very typical response to Hypertorp, is once you've dealt with the torps, you just fly across. Because obviously they're not going to have great units back at home to deal with you. But fortunately for me, you kind of held back. I mean, what was your idea there? Did you just not know what I had, or?
Well, I didn't have any gravity well, and if I just send all my bombers
Yep.
and corvettes across the map, then you just torp me again. And now I
Mm,
lose 5 collectors.
absolutely.
So
Yeah, because you went. This is not a mono fighter opener from you. This is a hybrid build, like corvettes plus fighters. Um, I feel like if you went like mono fighter with like 1Q interceptors, 1Q bombers, or something like that, I might have been in a bit of trouble. Because as you can see, I've only got 2 interceptor squadrons at this point. I could have been in trouble, but like you're saying, there was the danger that the torp could just come in and do equal damage. Um, but yeah, so the game just sort of slows down after that. I've got my third patch beginning to get set up here, which is something as well that I feel like happened in the last game, is that I get a patch before you do. I'm not sure how much of an effect it truly had, but definitely I've got a third patch starting to get set up here, and you're still on 2 patches as far as I can see. Um,
yeah. So my philosophy on these first 2 games, I wanted to make sure that I didn't die in the first 5 minutes, and so I played conservatively, expanding,
yeah,
and you know I I f- I felt like I had the upper hand, just seeing your races Homeworld 2. I've been playing Pig and Vagrant forever, so I'm very comfortable with those matchups. So I just figured I'd play a little bit conservatively, stay on 2 patch a little bit longer, and then once my carrier pops here, I'm gonna take that third real quick.
right, okay. Yeah, because I mean you've got that little death ball over there of units, which to be honest, right now I probably couldn't take a fight with, but perhaps in the flyover time I could have built something to deal with it. So um, yeah, I don't know. I just kind of banked off the fact that you were sort of sitting there. Like I watched your units for a while, and I was like, he doesn't seem to be planning to do anything right now. So I just thought I'm just gonna get a third patch and see if I can get away with that, and try and just get an econ lead, and then hopefully catapult into some sort of mid-game, late-game push where I've got like an extra battle cruiser or like an extra couple of frigates or something like that. Really, kind of the same philosophy that I had in the previous game. I was just like, I'm just gonna try and get a slightly bigger economy and just try and win by virtue of numbers. Um, and I feel like that does play a role in the upcoming battle that we do have later on, because I actually did get a specific unit slightly earlier than you did. Um, Even though I microed it pretty badly, um, I feel like just having it early was also like a boon for me. So we'll see how that plays out. Both of us are getting the carriers at this point. I'm getting the destroyers this time because I feel like in the H versus H matchup, destroyers. I don't really know what you're supposed to do except for destroyers, right? Because iron frigates just aren't that amazing, and obviously the other guy is going to be building pulsars, so you can't just win with pulsars. So I feel like destroyer is very meta, right? I mean, I don't know what else I'd be building in this scenario specifically.
Yeah, and I will say, you see me going for pulsars this game. Um, that's kind of in response to the current patch that we're playing. Typically, I might go double interceptor, but due to gunships being really good, I figured I'd go ahead and get pulsar just to cover my bases in case you wanted to push in with a corvette. Obviously, that didn't happen this game,
Yep,
but um, you are playing random as well. So for the most part, I was trying to do a balanced opener, single fighter, single corvette. That way, depending on which race you were, I have some decent options and tools to be able to handle a variety of rushes.
absolutely. So you actually definitely saw that torpedo. You sent the bombers to kill it. I feel like we have a scuffle. It comes out about even because I sent interceptors over there, and obviously the torpedo was firing on the bombers as well. Um, this torpedo, so I take advantage of the fact that the pulsars have their cannon on the top of them, and so I just tell my torpedo frigate to lower itself. As you can see, if you see in a second, the pulsars like right now they're completely unable to like effectively damage the torpedo frigate. So I start taking a really good fight. I kill this squad for sure, and then I think the other squad actually gets reduced to just one member. So yeah, it's something that people just don't know about torpedoes right now because the level of the game is not really there. Um, but I'm sure you knew this interaction with torpedoes and pulsars. It's like if you micro the torpedoes around and you kite with them and you move them up and down, they actually can take extremely good trades against corvettes that otherwise would do really well against them. So yeah.
So, funny enough here, that's something I just learned. I never knew that. And if I did, I forgot it long ago.
All right. Okay.
And honestly, it's Corvettes were never really a thing in Hig vs. Hig because
Right.
torps were always so good, you just didn't want to get them. In this game, like I said, I do end up going Corvettes. I had a few early game, and I just decided, well, I've got four of them. I might as well just keep going with a Corvette route because you've got mine layers. If I built four, I at least want to get the upgrade to make use of them. So why not just go Corvettes and see what I can get done with them this game?
Ah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, once you've got the infrastructure and the upgrades in place, um, even if your unit is like maybe not the ideal unit, a lot of times it's actually just better just to keep committing with that unit because the time it would take you to get the other tech out and all this kind of stuff is like you're saying, it's just sometimes you can't afford it. You've got to focus on other things. But yeah, that you can just move the torpedo downwards because the pulsars have their cannon on top of them. So I will say that actually means the pulsar has probably the worst matchup against frigates of all the sort of heavy corvettes in the game. Because obviously laser corvettes, they just do flybys, they don't care. And the heavy corvettes, they just face the target. Whereas the pulsar corvette, it's got this cannon on top, so it's really vulnerable to being kited like in that specific way. Um, I guess we haven't really seen that play out too much because no one really does it. I don't know if that means pulsars are completely unviable against torpedoes or something, but um, I guess we need more data on that, I suppose. But so both of us have just got these big walls of interceptors, and neither of us really plan to attack within the next couple of minutes, I'd say. Would definitely be a blunder, I think. So even if it's armed for burial like this, with the three patches that are quite small, and obviously the third patch there is very vulnerable, but in the mirror matchup, I feel like, do you know any way for a Higaran mirror matchup to not develop into a sort of like build race like this? Like, because both of us are going destroyers, then both of us are definitely going to go for battle cruisers to counter destroyers. And I was trying to think here. I hate doing mirror builds, but I couldn't think of anything that I could specifically build to like break the meta, I suppose, of like what
Yeah,
we
I
should be
mean
going for.
the meta for Hig vs. Hig is very strong. There's certainly some stretch you can do. I mean, you can do a 2-patch rush in and try to marine the destroyer,
Yeah,
which certainly can work. You can do a couple of rushes, whether it's a double fighter rush on a few collectors to try to push back on your opponent. Um, but certainly going destroyers is the safest play, and it's usually the way you want to do on a map this size.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it is quite a big map. I still like it though. I feel like it gets away with being large by having these patches are quite weak patches. Especially, I feel like the third patch is obviously it's vulnerable and it's also actually not big. Like none of these patches are big patches. So honestly, I feel like you get diminishing returns as soon as like 6 collectors. Even it's not like the shield natural, which can hold up to like 9 collectors. These patches, you're really not going to get optimal mining with 3 patches like that. It's way worse than other maps in that regard. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's really difficult to like, especially with the destroyers specifically. I really don't know how you could break in with a different type of unit because obviously the iron frigates would just get absolutely massacred. Even with the defense fields, I feel like they probably wouldn't be able to do it. Specifically because, of course, you have got the pulsars. I can't go mono iron frigate either. I'd have to make torpedoes, and that would weaken them even further. So it's just it's really difficult. So both of us are just sort of in an arms race here. Now I'm kind of worried because I feel like I mentioned this before, but I feel like my micro with capitals is not as good as yours. That's I'll partially blame that to your massive, long experience with Homeworld 2 races. Um, but yeah, I don't really trust myself to be able to take a fair fight. Is kind of what I'm saying here. So what I try and do here is, as you can see, I actually take a sneak expansion because, as far as I'm aware, you don't have any vision of me on this side of the map. Like I've got probes in the dust clouds. I've got a probe. My mothership's got the advanced sensors, so I'm getting a 4th patch, and that's really what I'm thinking is going to win me the game at this point. I'm thinking with this extra patch, I should be able to just overwhelm with numbers. Um, which kind of, I don't know. We'll have to see how it plays out. I feel like it probably will work decently because both of us, like I said, are going for the mirror build. So I was trying to think, how can I get the edge? If we're mirroring each other, I need an edge. And it's not going to be in the destroyer micro because I'm terrible at that. So I need to find a different way in. So I thought a sneak expansion was the best way to go. Um, yeah, because
Yeah, and I kind of expected you to take a 4th patch this game.
right, okay,
Um, honestly, in a second here, you should see my mothership move from its spawn location up towards that 3rd expansion.
yeah,
So my plan was going to be to then move my carrier at that expansion and go take a 4th,
right.
but I ended up getting so involved in the micro this game, I completely forgot about that plan. So
Oh,
we'll get back into the game, but we'll talk about that as it happens later.
okay. I was surprised constantly in this game that you were able to find my probes in these dust clouds. 'Cause I thought the dust clouds were stronger than this. I can't tell, especially scouts. I've noticed scouts can see in dust clouds better than I had a conception of it. Like, I'm sure they haven't been buffed in dust clouds or something like that, but I can't really tell.
No, so really they can't interceptors especially can't see but 2 feet in front of their face.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times I'll just send them into a dust cloud expecting, oh, there's probably a probe in here someplace.
Oh, okay,
So I'll
okay.
just move attack them into the dust cloud, and if there's one in there, they'll just shoot it right in front.
Oh, yeah, of course. Right, that's why. So I actually got frustrated with that. So I layer a distortion probe on top of it. So now it's in the dust
Ah,
cloud and it has a distortion probe. Um, I think it works. If memory serves, I believe that you don't kill this probe for the duration of the game. I might be completely wrong. You might just do it now, but if I'm remembering correctly. So I've got the defense fields, which is another thing I was quite happy about. But your response to seeing a push come in that you were waiting for battle cruisers, I think, right? Like you were going for cruisers.
so I actually this game I was trying to get some mine layers up there.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
Um,
about right
I
now.
I honestly should have pushed in a little bit sooner. I had 3 destroyers. You had 2 destroyers for at least a minute or 2,
Right.
but those dust clouds make it so hard to push. You can see
Yep.
right now, Fear has the vision with that probe in there, and he's got interceptors right there. So it's going to be very hard for me to kill that probe right now.
Yep.
And without that vision, it's hard to see what you're pushing into.
Yep.
So this map in particular makes it hard to push. Usually, I would have already been pushing on destroyers right now, trying to eat away at some of your collectors.
Yeah. Um, it's one of the things I really enjoy about this map. I don't know if you enjoy it, but I really find it fascinating to have this extra dimension added to the game. With the dust cloud in this map is so prominent. And it's in a central location where the fighting happens. I really don't feel like there's many other maps that like even Sarum dust clouds. Unless you're fighting on the sides, it doesn't have a dust cloud in the central position or anything like that. And I feel like I enjoy the extra like mini game that results
Hmm.
because of it. I do enjoy it. I don't know if everyone does, but personally, I really
Yeah, it's
like
a
it.
cool map.
Yeah. So obviously, I know that you're going to try and get cruisers at some point. So I also have been getting that cruiser tech. Another reason for the cruisers, obviously, is because they are the hardest counter in the game to destroyers. Um, I guess you could say marine frigates in specific scenarios are also great against destroyers, but the overall counter to destroyers is going to be that battle cruiser, just because it's the only unit in the game that can really outrange it, and it's the only unit in the game that can actually kill it before it's able to run away, I guess. But just because of that insane DPS. So I'm getting cruisers. I believe you start getting cruisers very soon, so the difference is actually very marginal. I have the defense fields, but you've got the mine layers, which I was really um, annoyed to see because I was actually planning to push in right now. I was gonna start the fight while my cruiser was ticking, and I was just gonna try and trade really effectively with defense fields. But those mines just completely prevent me from doing anything. Um, Obviously, I can't shoot the mines down with my interceptors. First off, because when a mine is moving, the interceptors just can't hit it. Secondly, obviously, if you use interceptors to try and kill mines, you start losing the interceptor fight. So it was a really lose-lose like idea to try and push in. So unfortunately, I have to wait for my battle cruiser here before I really start doing anything.
So, Fear, I do want to point out one thing you could have done here. You could have taken those torps, put them in the dust cloud, and torps have about 500 more range than mine layers do. So you
Right.
can actually pick off mine layers with your torpedo frigates.
Interesting. I guess the my reservation about doing that was, you've got those destroyers like
Yeah,
layered
I've got
in.
the destroyer sitting there. So a little bit, a few minutes ago, before my destroyers were all lined up in the minefield, maybe that would have been more viable. But you're absolutely right. I do
Yeah,
have destroyers there to protect them.
and I don't know. It could have been worth it. But I was really worried about losing too many. Like I'm actually building more torpedoes now because you don't have ions, you have pulsars. Like that's
Yep.
your sort of a small fry high DPS unit. So I really can't afford to throw away any of my torpedoes. They're my only answer to the pulsars. Actually, I don't have any
Yeah,
Corvette tech.
and I will say, usually ions are the better composition choice, but I kind of like where this game's going because since I built all those pulsars, you're now forced to make torpedo frigates,
Yep,
which means I can add ions in later, and now I've got a stronger composition where you're sitting on torpedo frigates.
absolutely. It's a really interesting dynamic. Like the torpedoes beat the pulsars in the early game, but if you can hold with the pulsars, like you're saying, it allows this sort of transitionary period which is completely advantageous for the pulsar user because, as you're saying, I'm going to be stuck on torpedoes, and you can just wave me with ions, and it'll be really really powerful. Obviously, I do have ion production of my own here, but at least some of my initial supply is going to be taken up by those torpedoes, which I mean they are bad, but they're definitely no iron frigate. The
Hmm.
way I'm trying to make up for it is the defense fields, and also I believe my battlecruiser pops sooner than yours, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So this game, you'll see I have 5 destroyers now. I've just maxed out. I waited till I had at least 4 or 5 before I built my shipyard. my game plan was to build a shipyard after 2 or 3 destroyers, but I got so nervous about this damn dust cloud, and I was just expecting you to push in at any moment, so I'm like, "Oh shit, I need mine laders. Gotta
Right.
wait on that shipyard, I gotta build more destroyers." So, yeah, I ended up, getting a slower shipyard and hence a slower cruiser. And to make matters worse, my RU chokes a bit here. And then I look at my research queue and I go, oh, let me cancel this improved mothership
Oh no!
manufacturing.
Oh, that's
Well, I actually
so
canceled my
unfortunate.
improved shipyard manufacturing because they both have the same name in the research
Yep.
menu. And so my cruiser was even slower. I was like, no.
Oh my god, that's so unfortunate. Because this game actually gets really close, even with that. So maybe, without that, it could have been a completely different game. Um,
Yeah, so make that mental note. We need to look at those research names and see if we can update those so you can tell the difference in
oh,
the future.
absolutely. It's so annoying when you've got several of them right next to each other queued up.
Yeah.
There's just no way of telling.
Yep.
Um, Obviously, I'm getting proximity detectors here because, as far as I can see, like without knowing how quick your cruiser is, I'm feeling like the fight's going to go my way. Um, I'm only feeling that because I'm playing usually against players with less experience. So against a typical player right now, if I push in, I'll win, just basically immediately because they're not going to micro correctly. Their destroyers are all just going to die one by one to the cruiser, and I'll just win. So I'm getting the preemptive proxy tech to try and catch cloaks. Um, but yeah, I mean this game only just really began. Even with this early cruiser, your experience in this matchup definitely starts showing, like, and my inexperience starts showing as well. Specifically with the late game, I feel like in the early game I'm fine, but in the late game, so my cruiser's coming in now. My idea was to have the cruiser tank a lot of mines and just like be a damage sponge essentially.
Yeah,
Um,
it's usually a good plan for it.
I try and get my interceptors to shoot some mines. I can't remember if I do that now or later, but it doesn't go very well. Also, you can see my defense fields are right there, just sitting there. Even though they were my big game plan, I was like, oh, I've got defense fields. I just didn't use them at all. I've got a marine
Oh.
frigate that you don't notice. I'm sure you don't notice that because it successfully caps the refinery. And I look later, and you're still long distance mining. So I got kind of fortunate that you didn't notice that, I suppose. I feel like that helps a lot. Um, but yeah, so I've got a flak frigate that's going to die for no reason because I'm not controlling my units well at all. Everybody's running in, and I'm like, wait, don't run in. Let the destroyers go. Wait, no, let the defense fields catch up, and it's a big mess. So defense field's still not doing anything. Still, I mean, it's been like minutes now. I finally get him forward. Not a bad timing for them, I suppose. The initial like wave of damage has actually landed already, so the defense fields are able to sneak in here. I've also got a distortion field, although it's not actually on your units, which is kind of bad. But yeah, very interesting. This is something that happens. These interceptors, neither of us are interested. Like neither of us want to actually take the interceptor fight at this point, because losing that would just be cripplingly bad. So it's not even worth risking it. At least in my opinion. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, usually you want to keep your fighters on passive and Hig versus Hig. They're mainly there for anti-bomber use, and if you try to take an engagement, you might end up just losing Swarm. Because there's so many guns on the other side with the hull defense guns, and uh, you're probably not going to take a good fight.
So your destroyers are just massacring my frigates, which is expected. That's when you get this many destroyers, you're not expecting frigates to last too long. Although obviously I should have had them in my defense fields. That would have been I probably could have won the game if I'd used these defense fields properly. Obviously that's
So
not the
look at my cruiser on the bottom here. So this is
yep,
starting to. What is it? A minute and a half, 2 minutes, 3 minutes later than yours? I
yep,
mean, it's way slower, but at least it's out, and we've still got a good composition of units on the field.
yep. And my cruiser was involved during the first opening moments of that battle. Um, Honestly, the only thing my cruiser's truly done so far has absorbed all those mines, right? Then it had to back away because it nearly went down. I had to repair it for a whole bunch of time. So to be honest, the cruiser involvement, at least as far as the destroyers are concerned, the cruiser involvement is kind of simultaneous, to be honest. Even though I got this cruiser earlier, the mines and all this kind of other factors contributed to it being, in my opinion, kind of fine to have this cruiser slightly later than mine. Obviously, if I was better at using cruisers, maybe not the case. Now, here's the thing that actually does matter, is that now that I've got 2 cruisers, right, your destroyers are no longer going to be able to kite before they die, right? So the double cruisers is a huge threat. I get my defense fields doing some things, but still probably not optimal. Yeah. Now, with my cruiser with the fire control tower on it, that's the one that was busted up earlier and spent most of its life not fighting. Actually, is in a really bad spot right now. It should not be there at all. It should probably be off to the left or right, significant amount. And as you can see, it just goes down. I lose a cruiser for basically no reason there. And your cruiser just slides right out of there, like no problem, see ya. So really bad trade for me on the cruiser front. But unfortunately, these destroyers from you, I mean, what do you think? I feel like these destroyers are just too ambitiously placed. I feel like there's no reason to have them this far forward, but I mean, obviously
So
you
I
know more
had
than
him
me.
there. I had him there so I could focus down that first cruiser.
Right.
And I think I'm focusing on the second cruiser. I feel like it's low enough on health that maybe I can try to kill it with the cruiser and the 3 destroyers that I've got.
Yep.
Um, but obviously you're pulling back here, and I don't quite sink it.
Yep. that cruiser HP actually nearly becomes a game defining factor. Because it's so low, right? It actually comes under fire in a minute, and it gets very close to going down. So yeah, both of us are sort of like pretending to fight with interceptors, but neither of us actually fighting with interceptors. Your pulsar swarm has actually been diminished quite significantly, but so has my torpedo count. In fact, I don't think I've got a single torpedo alive at this point. So yeah, this is a potential issue for me in this game. Also, my battle cruiser there, as you can see, it's getting very low. Destroyers are trying to take a fight with 2 cruisers, so they're not going to be in a good place. One goes down.
So something I want to point out, which is going to matter here. I've got 2 cruisers. I'm looking good. Momentum's starting to swing into my favor. But I mentioned earlier my game plan was to move my mothership next to the carrier where it's at on the left of the screen, and then I
Yeah.
was going to move that carrier and take a 4th patch. I got so involved in this micro, I forgot to take my 4th patch,
Oh no.
and my original 2 patches start to mine out. So I am now basically starving for RU, and you'll notice most of the collectors on that patch on the left, that's my good patch, right? I've
Yep.
actually moved those collectors to repair my cruiser.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I'm doing good in the fight here, but I'm running out of money, and I'm looking at my bank and going, man, I need to sell mods to stay alive.
Yeah.
And and this ends up costing me. Not taking that 4th patch, running out of RU on my original 2 patches. You'll see my production basically come to a stall. I think this is my last cruiser. I don't have money for anything else at this point. You can see there's like 10 collectors on the left of the screen harvesting from like 1 or 2 asteroids, and the rest are all mined out.
Yep.
So this is just terrible on my part.
Yep. So something that I just want to point out is that my cruiser there stays alive due to the cloak. It nearly dies to your cruiser, and then it nearly dies to the pulsars. But fortunately, there was no proxy detector. Like you're saying, you didn't really have the money for it. But yeah, it was kind of a lucky thing that I had the cloak generator on this shipyard, just like really well placed. If that hadn't been there, I would have lost this cruiser. Not that it would have. I don't know if it would have let you back into the game, because like you're saying, things are starting to get very desperate for you. But I feel like this cruiser not dying was kind of like a nail in the coffin, right? Because as you're saying, your cruiser doesn't come out, and I feel like you get maybe one more, but yeah, the momentum that you just gained is starting to slip away. Like, this cruiser can now fire at the destroyer with no retaliation. It should. If I don't do that, then that's really stupid, and I don't. But yeah, so the frigates are just like taking damage, and yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's your
Ye-
refinery, by the way, on the left.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the one you captured with your marine earlier.
yeah.
Yeah, so now Fear's second cruiser is out. I'm never gonna get another cruiser if I recall this game correctly, and I had the momentum for a couple of minutes there, but just being completely bone dry in RU totally cost me the game.
Yep. And we're still just flying around aimlessly with the interceptors. Your interceptors actually do pretty good damage to my frigates. I was quite surprised to see how much they did. Um, I do have to be vaguely careful, I suppose. You know, like losing my cruisers somehow would be stupid. I really don't know how I would lose my cruisers at this point, though. Um, even even if I lost one of them, you don't have enough HP on the field. Also, your cruiser's shooting at my mobile refinery. I just noticed that he was one of his lasers was on the mobile. That's very unfortunate. That's the last thing you need.
Oh, and you'll see I got a defense field up now.
Yep.
That was probably the last thing my RU went towards, is that defense field research and frigate, and
Yep.
then I went broke.
Yeah, just trying to clutch it out with a miracle sort of defense field proc that would block all the damage and sort of somehow give you the time to get back in the game. But unfortunately, the battlecruiser lasers, they just cut straight through that. Um, it's really unfortunate. So yeah, that's really unfortunate to hear then that you made that mistake with the. I can see your collectors are going off into the distance now. Like your carrier's off in the distance, they're trying to claim a patch finally, but yeah, that's really unfortunate. I felt it was just a money game, this one, even after it, even without knowing that you didn't take that fourth. I had my fourth earlier. Um, yeah, so it was, yeah, once again, just like the previous game, to be honest, it was mostly just an economy thing. The micro was not really there for me, but I just had more units and you sort of dried up, so
Yeah.
there's the
And this
forfeit.
happens to me sometimes. Late game, I get so involved in the micro of a full fleet of units that I tend to forget some of the basics like your economy. And part of that is most of the games that I played have all been played on higher U settings, so the map doesn't run dry for 45 minutes.
Yeah,
Whereas we're playing on a medium RU setting, so they start drying up after 25 minutes. So you got to move your collectors to a new patch much sooner.
yep. In this game, actually, somehow, I'm surprised to see that ship's kill tab, because I feel like I bled so many frigates, but I have no idea what I did to earn such a high kill count. Oh, I guess it was the pulsars, right? Um, they all died to
Yeah, I think
torpedoes
I lost
eventually.
quite a bit of pulsars towards the end of the game to the
Right.
torps.
Okay. I really feel like the combat tab needs RUs killed because I feel like that'd be more representative, right? If you kill
Hmm.
like 5 frigates and I kill 1 battlecruiser, then yeah, obviously it would just be like 1 to 5 on the combat screen, and it would just be kind of garbage. But I mean, so that was game two, which was kind of very similar to game one in why it played out the way it did. It was just sort of like I had more stuff. Like it was just a very cut and dry, like Gold League StarCraft. I just made a lot of units and had more money. And I even tried to do some like cool micro things, such as the defense field frigates, and just didn't use them. Like it was nothing to do with my micro or skill in that regard, and everything to do with just I had more collectors. But that was game two. I mean, how do you feel about that one? I mean, was it just like an unfortunate one? Do you feel like
Yeah, I mean, I basically had my face in my palm after this
no?
game. I was just like, I just forgot to move collectors. If I would have just taken like 2 seconds to relocate to a new patch,
Oh,
we would have still been in the game.
yep,
It would have been dragging on, and who knows what would have happened.
yeah,
I certainly could have pulled a win off. I could have made a mistake in the cruiser micro. You could have pulled a win off, but
yep.
I was very disappointed that that mistake lost me the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like a long, drawn-out cruiser fight is really against me because I keep saying it, but it's not where I want to be. I hate using cruisers. I'm really bad with them. Like I'm not terrible with them, but compared to people such as yourself and even players like Ghost Rider, Even Igbo Commander is probably better at using cruisers than I am, just because I don't know if you agree, but like I feel like the old guard for Homeworld 2 Classic, all of you guys love like the cruiser compositions, like you love these late game capital balls. I feel like that's because in Homeworld Classic, right, the cruisers have so much HP and like so much range. It's such an important unit. I don't know how you feel about that.
Oh yeah, I mean in Classic, you had a unit cap of 3 for cruisers, and they had a ton of HP, and a lot of the team games were played on some of the bigger maps like Crimson's Bond. So certainly you had to be top notch, on point with your cruiser micro to be able to do well.
Right. Anyway, let's stop blabbing on and let's try get into game 3. So this is game 3. Now this is a bit weird, as you can see from this recording. I'm actually looking at this on YouTube. The reason for that, so I actually do have game 3, but I completely failed to record games 4 and 5. Luckily though, Cloaked was also recording, and obviously he was much more awake than me, or something like that. I was just completely out of it by this point. I totally failed to record a lot of it, so we're actually going to look at these games from his perspective, which I think is actually pretty good, because both of us are casting, so it's kind of fitting that we can see the games actually play out from both of our perspectives as well. I don't know how much of this is just preamble. Okay, we get into the loading right there. Okay. So this is game 3. We went to Badlands, didn't we? I'm pretty sure this is the Badlands game. So this was your pick. Arm for Burial was my pick. That was the previous game. So this one, we're on Badlands. You picked this. So why this one? I mean, to be honest, the map pool was getting kind of tight. But
yeah, I mean, basically we had to pick every single map, and I was actually trying to pick maps that I thought you wouldn't pick, so that you would try to pick one of my better than the worst map.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I came into Badlands. Oh, something I want to ask you about. I was thinking about this. So you're 2-0 down, right? Were you like nervous or like kind of rattled coming into this game? Were you like really focused, or what was happening with you?
So I was really disappointed after that second game. I felt like I had a really good opportunity to win that one, and I just completely blew it with the lack of harvesting at the end. So I was pretty bummed about that. But this tournament for me is just for fun. So I went into it not having a whole lot of high expectations. I hadn't been playing in about a year, and I started back playing just for this tournament. So I'm happy that the first 2 games were in over in 10-15 minutes. Both of them lasted for at least 30 so minutes. So I was still happy, and just was gonna keep going with my game plan and seeing where it led.
Yeah, because I was coming into game 3 here. I was kind of confident because I was like, oh, that was 2 games in a row I've won. I just need one more win. Even if I don't win this one, I've got so much breathing room. Like I can make a couple of mistakes. I can do all this. So I was feeling like quite happy coming into this game. Oh yeah, look, you've got the attack command interceptor trying to scour the dust cloud for probes, because you saw my probe going in.
Yeah. So this is a trick. I don't know if many people are aware, but you can actually use the Alt key and focus in on the probe as it's coming in. And even after it goes into a dust cloud and you lose vision, if you've still got your focus on that probe, your camera will follow it into the dust cloud until it stops.
Yep.
So even though you can't see it, you know where it stopped, and then you can go send a fighter to kill it.
Yep. I sometimes see units that are tasked to attack a probe will actually keep tracking the probe even after it moves massively out of their vision range. It doesn't always happen though, so it's really strange. Oh, there we go, you found it. So what's your plan for this game? Is it just the same as the other games, like go into destroyers because of the size of the map? Or?
Yeah, so I I didn't really try to make a different strategy for each map. Really, I just kind of had a general game plan. Okay, here's my basic build. I'm going to scout him, and if I need to adjust it to counter what he's doing, great.
Yep.
Each of these games, I pretty much did the same opener. I built a scout on my mothership. I built 4 collectors on my mothership, and I built 6 collectors on my carrier.
Right.
The other thing I was doing right off the bat was getting the advanced sensors module on my mothership, so I could deny your scouting, whether it was a probe or a scout. I was sending my first interceptor off to go chase it down and deny that vision from your side.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's just the struggle of Vega, I guess, right now. Is actually getting the early vision is so difficult, right? Because you have slow scouts in the initial phases of the game. Oh, that's interesting. You did put a probe up here.
Yes, so those dust clouds at the top of the map,
Yeah,
you stick a probe up there, and a lot of times your opponent doesn't notice.
I sent one as well. I don't remember catching that though. Maybe they just passed each other and we didn't notice.
I guess so.
Yeah, definitely put like, see that one? I'm pretty sure that's headed towards that dust band. I can't remember where I put it, to be honest, but yeah. So I can't remember if I found that or not. I mean, you must have found this one. I don't know where that one's going. Well, I think I just put that one in such a way that I was like, oh, maybe he won't notice it. But I completely forgot that you have the advanced sensors on the mothership, because most people just get a probe, right? So with like clever positioning on your probes, you can just about catch the mothership without being noticed. But you always build the sensors, like the advanced sensor module, so you always see those probes.
Yep.
Destination canceled.
Right, so on the Badlands, I was kind of thinking I should be able to get some momentum going here because, you know, 3 patches is doable. That 4th patch you can usually push before it happens, but the main thing about this map is that the patches are really far apart. But the map itself is huge, right? So which factor outweighs the other? In my experience against maybe less experienced players, generally the distance between the patches has been huge. Like, I can usually come in and like take out a patch while I'm distracting them and things like that. But in this game, I don't know, against someone just as stable as you, I really struggled to like I was looking at you all the time. I was like saying, how can I get in? How can I prevent like such a free economy being built for my opponent? I really couldn't see a way in. So I guess this map, maybe at a high level, just ends up playing out similarly to Angel Wing or something. I don't know. I couldn't really find a way in, even with the back patch like that with a refinery. Yeah, I guess I don't know. This is one of the first games where I was looking at it and I couldn't really figure out a way to like get that edge. Like in the previous games I've been able to get a patch over you and things like that, but in this game I just couldn't figure it out. I was like, I don't know what tech I can make, I don't know what move I can make to prevent the destroyer ball from building up, because I was just being stubborn really. I was like, I don't want to play destroyers, I don't want to play cruisers, I don't like that style, so I was just like trying to figure out ways to stop you from getting to that point, but
Confirmed.
Yeah,
Confirmed.
I couldn't really figure out how to do it, at least in the early game here.
Engage all hostiles.
And you've already got that carrier as well, so...
Strike group
Yeah,
moving in
so, you know, this map, it just, it's a little bit bigger than Fallen Lords. Earlier in the tournament, I actually didn't like this map as much, especially versus Vaegir, because I felt like your patches were a little bit spread out, and I felt like it was a little susceptible to swarm harassment. But I started to realize that middle void in the map is so big, and there's no patches there, that you can't really just come out and push me. I mean, you got to walk, you know, 25 kilometers across the map just to get to me. So it's a huge gap, and because it's so big, you can just sit back and defend quite well.
Yep. And so this is going to be, as you can already see, like, we're only 7 minutes in. It's already apparent that this is going to be one of those super macro kind of like Destroyers are definitely coming out, and battlecruisers seem likely, even from this early point in the game. I'm kind of expecting destroyers at a minimum. I mean, obviously, you've been going for destroyers every single game, but even against another Higaran, I would expect the destroyers to be popping anytime soon, because just from your stance, like, you're obviously not planning to actually attack or anything. So from my perspective, like, really the sensible thing to do that I didn't do was just to get the 22 collectors on 4 patches and try and get an early cruiser. Like, I definitely should have done that. I should have actually just rushed a cruiser, in my opinion, but I was just being really stubborn. Like, this game I was like, I'm gonna try the heavy missiles. I don't think do I have them in production already? I don't think so. No, it's too early. But yeah, I was like, I'm gonna try the heavy missiles. I'll see if I can break him before he builds up that destroyer count. But
Interceptor Squadron complete.
yeah.
Roger. Strike group coordinates locked in.
Group 1 reinforced.
Strike group.
So yeah, neither of us have really amazing vision. But I feel like your vision is slightly better than mine just because of the central
New
probe.
upgrades available.
Yeah, that was very helpful.
Yeah.
Facility complete. Berths are clear.
Like, I don't know. I should have got EMP, I should have got battle cruisers, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, you know, I was surprised you didn't get EMP.
Berths are clear. Assembly underway.
Well, I guess the thing with EMP is that I really like it, but
Upgrade complete.
specifically in these games, neither of us were actually trying to play fighters or anything like that. And also, just living through the recent times in Remastered, EMP
Upgrade complete.
obviously is
Strike
really
group coordinates locked in.
like neutered a lot against evasive fighters because they all split apart like that.
Group
um,
1
Yep.
designated.
And everyone uses them right now, and it's kind of like EMP's kind of... It's not bad, but it's definitely fallen out of favor. Especially with the slower scouts. They land it slightly less convincingly. So
Flak frigate
you can
complete.
still get those money EMPs that win the game,
No
but
problem. Reporting.
and I should have gone for them. Like,
Strike
it
group
is definitely an
coordinates
oversight,
locked in.
but
Confirmed.
I guess I was I don't know, I just wasn't really focused on it.
Strike group moving.
Yeah, and I will say, you know, earlier I mentioned
Complete.
Roger.
uh,
Strike group under
missile
heavy
corvette
missile
health being one of the reasons I didn't want to go
Scout
Vagrant.
squadron complete.
Another reason was
Moving into position.
I don't feel EMP is in a good place right now, and that's one of the, you know, main strong suits of Vagrant historically has been EMP.
Yeah.
But I feel like, you know, with the scouts are a little bit slower than they used to be. They're only slightly faster than interceptors now. It's really hard to chase down interceptors and get a good EMP hit off.
Right.
So for that reason, I'm like, oh, well, one of the race's main strengths right now isn't that great. So
Absolutely.
Responding.
Interceptor Squadron
So yeah, you've got those flak frigates out, you're just
production
you've just
underway.
like put the wall up, and now you're heading into your game
Production
plan, which is these
underway.
like capital balls.
Assembly underway.
And I'm sitting over there and I'm like, I don't want to play like that. Not because it's like anything against it, I just don't. That's like, I tend to not go for that style.
Strike
and
group
I was like,
coordinates locked in.
I'm
Strike
gonna
group
see if I
coordinates
can
locked
break in with the frigate
Reporting.
Group 1
push in.
reinforced.
Although to be
Strike group
honest,
moving into position.
if I wanted to
Destroyer
achieve this, I shouldn't have played the way I did. I should
Interceptor
have
Squadron
not had, like, I shouldn't have gone for such peripheral
Group 5
technology. Like,
designated.
I did have the EMP tech, and I made 6 scouts, and I made an extra carrier, and I got maximum economy and stuff like that. If I really wanted to hit you properly with a heavy missile attack, I should have, like, cut some of that stuff and hit you like 2 or 3 minutes earlier than I actually did.
Research complete. New
'cause you've already got one
corvettes
destroyer
available for
out.
construction.
yeah, and I'm actually quite late on destroyers this game. I took an earlier third patch this game than I have in the prior 2 games.
Mothership
So,
generator
you know, you're
complete.
looking here, I got a destroyer at about 11 minutes. The previous games, you know, I think it was probably more like 9 minutes. So
Yep.
I'm behind on my timing, but you'll notice you don't have a whole lot of frigs at this point either.
Yep.
So, you know, we both just kind of sat back and got a big economy.
Yep. And that was like that was
Upgrade
probably the
complete.
fundamental flaw in my game right now, is that I went for a mixture of like, oh, I'm gonna get more economy than him,
Group 3
and I'm
assigned.
not gonna go for the late game army. So I was like, I'm gonna play a late game style
Copy.
Group
with
1
early game
reinforced.
tactics,
Upgrade
I guess,
complete.
which was just a mix of things that just didn't really meld well together.
Minor
Um,
corvette complete.
Like,
Mine layer
you've got the
correct.
mine layers even now, which is something that the heavy missiles like that. I think the destroyers were fine. Obviously they were a huge problem, but the thing that stopped
Group
me
8
from
designated.
hitting you
Move
right
order
now
confirmed.
was the
Pulsar
fact that
gunship
these mine
squadron
layers were on the
complete.
field.
Understood.
Like, I just can't get past them.
Moving to destination.
Yeah, they're
New
so
upgrades
good
available.
defensively. They just
Mothership
tear
hyperspace
frigates up
module
so
complete.
quickly.
Yep.
New capital ships available for
Yeah, specifically the
construction.
frigates.
Set,
Like,
dropping mines.
battle
Moving
cruisers
to
and destroyers can tank a lot of mines and get healed up.
Group 8 assigned.
Mhm.
Whereas the frigates, like, they just die. And there's nothing you
Yep.
can do. You can't repair a frigate when it's dead.
Upgrade complete.
I think the race that has the best match against mine layers is probably Homeworld 1 because they can put a capital
Mine
in there
layer
with
corvette
support
complete.
frigates.
Production
Um,
underway.
Like, obviously, like, it's only because Homeworld 1 has the best access to repair in the game. Like, the repair corvettes and stuff are just amazing compared to collectors.
Yeah, and look at how confident I am with these mine layers right here. You've got a big ball of frigs over there. I only have one destroyer, but I just tossed a shipyard into my mothership queue. So after my second destroyer pops, I'm going to focus on getting that shipyard.
Wow.
Just because I have these mine layers out. I
Yep.
mean, you're over there massing,
Group
you know,
5 assigned.
15 plus
Destroyer
frigs at the
complete.
moment, but I'm just sitting back because I've got 4 mine layers and my second DD just popped.
Oh. Like, yeah, without these mine layers, what you have on the field now would just fall over.
Yep.
But they're so strong. Yeah.
Strike group moving into position.
Ugh.
At ease. Roger. Group
I was
5
looking at this, I was like, oh, god damn it. Like,
Group 8
come on, man,
reinforced.
give me a break.
On our way.
Yeah, it's
Pulsar gunship squadron
it's
complete.
rough. I think this is the game actually where I try and shoot down your mines, but like, this is another micro mistake I make. Like, my frigates move into the range of the mines, yeah? Causing the mines to move. And because the mines are moving, I can't shoot them. Like, if I'd gone in first with the interceptors and shot the mines, then gone in with the frigates, it would have been a completely different initial fight, but
Group 8
I mean, you can
reports
see
enemy
none of these
contact.
mines are dying.
Group 3
I-
reports
Look at all those mines. Oh my god.
Jesus Christmas. Honestly, it was so rough. Watching these mines hit my frigates, I was like, I've messed up already. What I should have done is, honestly, I should have just run. I should have gone back to my side of the map and just gone for capitals. But again, I was being really stubborn. I was like, no, I can win, I can do it. I'm not gonna give in to the brutal tyranny of mine layers, but
Group 1
So your EMP just landed there, but I think you kind of whiffed it.
yeah, it was a big
Looks
whiff.
like, yeah, nothing happened there. So I'm not sure if I, you know, had a decent enough spread, or I might have killed a few of your scouts before they had a chance to deploy all their bombs, but
I think it was to be honest, it was just a really unlucky EMP. To be honest, I just targeted some of your ints with my EMP and didn't really choose my target or anything like that. And I feel like I just happened to clip an interceptor that was docking, I clipped another one that was turning and things like that, so the EMPs just really didn't get any shots down.
So look at this now. My mines have just been doing all this work for me. I probably killed 10 frigs just with mines for free.
Yep.
My destroyers are both deep in the green. I'm sending some collectors to repair the one, and I've got Pulsar just cleaning up that side attack that you sent in.
Yep. You know, that was what I was like, oh, maybe I can circumvent the mines, like, I can go around them and hit them on the side and stuff like that, but you've got the pulsars following them. Like, it's just, I can't break you right now. I should not have tried. Like, it was, I don't know, it was just foolish to attempt this, but I tried anyway. I run back a bit, but, you know, I've let out thousands of RU's worth of units already. So, if I had an economy lead, yeah, I've just thrown it away, basically.
Pulsar gunship squadron.
And you're maxed out on
Group
pulsars
2
as well.
assigned.
Strike group moving into position.
This is the game I also, if I'm remembering correctly,
Prepare for assault.
I don't make lance fighters, I go for mass missile corvette, and that does not play out well.
Shipyard has arrived.
Yeah, this current patch, missile corvettes, their health is just too low and they fall to Pulsar. You got to get those lands.
Yep. So yeah, there's the big ball of green. The interceptors layered on top of the pulsars, layered on top of the mine layers. The destroyer's just sort of sitting there saying, hey, come fight me. I'm going to kite backwards into all of these mines and just kill you.
Strike group coordinates locked in.
Pulsar's just making sure nothing can breach the rear position. What I should have done
Proximity
probably is
sensor
maybe
complete.
even some bombers or
Group
something
one
like that, or laser
reinforced.
corvettes,
Strike group coordinates
or
locked
just
in.
something to like
Group
chip
three,
away at your
copy.
back patches
Strike
like
group
that,
moving
but
into position.
obviously that didn't work. Also, you see my sensor distortion probe there, which was
Research paused.
like,
Mothership.
that is not a cheap unit. Like, they cost like 600, I
Sensors
think.
distortion probe
Yeah.
complete.
And you also get your own distortion probes at this point, so...
Yeah, so mine just popped up. That's that
Ion
white
cannon
spear around the
frigate
map.
Complete.
Group 2 reporting. Strike group moving into position.
Yep.
Standing by.
My frigates see your pulsars coming and they sort of just go, well,
Strike
okay,
group coordinates locked
gotta
in.
run.
Group 2
You actually tricked me out here, because I didn't see that
Locked on
some of your pulsars kept going.
Reporting.
I saw these ones coming back and I was like, oh, I can move in.
Group 2
But
reinforced.
obviously
Strike
that
group
doesn't
moving
work.
into position. Strike group moving into position. Group 1.
Ion cannon frigate.
Yeah, at this point I have
complete.
no I
Strike
just
group
can't
coordinates
explain
locked
why
in.
I continued
5
this
copies.
fight.
We're under fire.
Like,
Friendly's under fire.
my only
Moving in.
justification
Group
is that
10
it was like
is
3 in the
defeating the
morning.
enemy.
Course
I was so
set.
tired.
Moving
I
while
just
engaged.
couldn't.
Group 1 copies.
Oh, this is the
Group 2
point of the
reports
game.
enemy
Actually, I
contact.
remember this. It's like 20 minutes in.
Subsystem construction
My
complete.
float,
Strike
like
group
so the
moving into
RUs I
position.
haven't spent,
Ion cannon
is
frigate.
sitting at around
Combat maneuver confirmed.
13,000
Coordinates locked in.
right now
Strike group.
at this point in the
Prepare
game.
for assault. Group
Uh,
9 receiving.
While I'm doing a push
Area
in
is secure.
against
Understood.
units I
Prepare
can't
target
fight
locked in. Group
into
2.
a minefield.
Under
Like,
attack.
Group 1
I just
reporting. Group 2 copies.
Ion cannon frigate.
I can't explain it.
Confirmed. Group
It's
1
such a
standing
bad
by.
idea. Every
Get
single thing
around
I'm
here.
doing right
Strike
now
group coordinates locked in.
is just
Supporting friendly units.
is bad. Like it's not good in any way.
Order confirmed. Strike
Like
group
there's
moving
no
into
redeeming
position.
qualities of
Strike
this
group under
gameplay.
enemy attack.
Destroyer complete. Ion cannon frigate complete.
Group 5 acknowledged.
Group 8 reports enemy contact. Group 1 reports enemy contact.
So
Supporting
yeah,
friendly units. Destination locked
just
in.
I can't break the
Group 4
destroyers. They just get healed back up.
Combat station.
Every
Yeah,
frigate
so
I
you
lose.
see I've got 1.5 health, but I've got 4 collectors repairing
Group
it.
8 under attack.
And
Confirmed. Group 2 reporting.
Group
I've
2
got a
reports
cruiser in
enemy
production
contact.
now.
Reporting. We're under fire.
Yeah.
Group 8 reports
And once that
enemy
cruiser hits the
contact.
field, honestly,
Strike group attack order
there's just
confirmed.
nothing. Like I
Group
can't
1
do
copy.
anything at that. Oh, you see my fighters just disappeared. So I guess the
Withdrawing
distortion
heavy
probe
fire.
actually
Strike
does
group
help quite a bit.
coordinates locked in. Ready for orders. Strike
Yeah,
group
it's really
coordinates
scrambling
locked in.
things over
Group
there.
4 reports
But
enemy
yeah, it's
contact. Group 2 under attack.
I'm already
Clear,
in a
assembly
losing
underway.
scenario.
Bursts are clear.
Once this
Assembly
cruiser
underway.
pops out,
Group 2 copies.
I
Strike
really,
group moving
what am I
into
gonna
position.
do?
Group
Like,
8
I
under
already
attack.
can't fight your
Strike
army.
Prepare for assault.
Um,
Strike group moving into
once again, I
position.
kind of pull
Standing
back
by.
in a
Group
sort of really
5
half-assed
assigned.
way,
Awaiting orders.
and I sit there and I
Ion
go,
cannon frigate complete.
that didn't
Moving to
work. Maybe if I try again.
Strike group moving
And
into
so I
position.
basically
Group
just come at
2
you again,
assigned.
because it's like, well...
Group 2 designated.
Group
Oh.
1. Strike group coordinates locked in. Strike group moving into position. Group 2.
Look at this, I've got like one
Group
squad of
4
interceptors
under attack.
Stay on
doing
top
a
of it.
suicide run there.
Yep.
2 of them.
Group 1 reporting.
I think they
Group
get
1
out,
copies.
which is really
Docking with
frustrating.
mothership.
That's the worst
So-
thing in this game.
Receiving.
Yeah, what
Strike
happens
group
sometimes,
attack order
I'll dock a unit and then I'll take it out of my
Designated.
control group.
Engaging.
Yep.
Roger.
So instead of having
Group
14
4
interceptors on hotkey 1, I'll have 12.
Ion
Yeah,
cannon
I do
frigate
that.
Well,
complete.
those 2 will
Group
start
10
floating
reports
away
victory.
and try to go on a suicide mission, and when I try to pull them back, they're not on my control hot group, so I lose them.
Yep, I do that
Roger.
all the time.
Responding.
I forget to
Group
reassign
8
them to
reports
the
enemy
control group when
contact.
they come
Group
back out.
1 under attack.
So
This is group 1.
obviously they just fly into the fight, and
Friendly's under
I'm like,
fire.
wait, come
Moving
back, and they just
Group
nope.
4 reports
Going
enemy
in.
contact.
Cabin pressure dropping.
Yeah, my
Group
missile
1.
corvettes. I have a decent number. I was
Engineering
at this
reports
point I
damage.
was kind of like saying,
Group 8
well,
under attack.
I'm gonna outproduce his
Frigate
corvettes
lost.
because I actually
Docking
switched
with
like
mothership.
3 or 4 of my queues
Group
to making
1
missile
reports
corvettes.
enemy contact.
Strike group coordinates locked in.
And I was
Group
kind of
3
thinking maybe I
under
can win the
attack.
corvette
Group
fight because
9
I'm obviously
reporting.
not gonna
Repair
win
order confirmed.
any other fight.
Combat maneuver confirmed.
But yeah, the missile
Group 4.
corvettes just
Combat
can't fall
maneuver
over and
confirmed.
die.
Standing by. Target acquired. Group 2 copy.
Like I have a lot of
Complete.
missile
Awaiting
corvettes
further
here,
orders. Strike group moving
and
into
I'm
position.
producing
Awaiting
them from
orders.
3 queues
Group 1
at
under
least.
attack.
Cabin pressure
It
dropping.
might have even been 4
Destroyer
queues.
complete.
Berths are clear. Assembly underway. Berths are clear.
But the
Supporting
pulsars just
friendly
come in
units.
and they
Resource
like
collector
this is
under
honestly a
heavy fire.
massacre.
Group 2. Strike group prepare for assault. Group 1 standing by.
Heavy missiles
Strike
trying to
group
do a
coordinates locked
backstab
in.
didn't
Strike
work.
group attack order
Just get
confirmed.
found out.
Awaiting assignment. Strike group attack order confirmed.
Group 8 reports enemy contact.
Group 2. Engineering reports damage. Group 2 receiving.
And so I'm going to
Mothership.
cloak my mothership
Group
here,
8
so
under
anything I
attack.
do
Enter
dock in this
hyperspace
fight
inhibitor
is
field.
going to get a free
Frigate lost.
dock and a free reheal.
Resource collector
Yep.
under heavy fire. Responding.
The mothership
It also helps
is
the
taking
mine
light
layers
enemy
obviously
fire.
because
Drawing heavy fire.
they're cloaked while laying
Mothership.
mines. So
Frigate under attack.
back.
Yeah, and you'll
Flag
notice
frigate
my
complete.
that white
The
bar on my
mothership
mothership is
under
going
light
down.
attack.
The
Group
mothership's
8
not cloaked
reports enemy
because I'm still
contact.
attacking with it,
Yep.
but anything that comes into dock will be cloaked.
Frigate lost.
Yeah, it's a good way to actually fake out your opponent as well, because at first
Yeah, you
glance,
can't tell that
yeah,
you can't tell that my mothership's cloaked, so you might try to chase some units down, and then they just disappear when they get close to the mothership.
Yep. I think that was also, like, with the distortion
Group 2
field and the
assigned.
cloak, I'd really, like, and the dust cloud as well. It
Frigate
was just like all
Group
of these
4
effects
reinforced.
layering on top of each other. I couldn't see, like, those frigates at the back, I couldn't see them at all.
Mothership
Like, I had no
underway.
vision.
Interceptor squadron complete.
Yeah, so I probably got
Group
some
10
flex here
reports
that
enemy
hell
contact.
you might not even be able to see, and they're just laying down damage on your swarm.
Absolutely. And speaking of my swarm, it's just way out of
Upgrade
position.
complete.
I shouldn't
Group
have taken a
8
fight
under
here
attack.
at all. I should have run away across. I should have run all the way back to my side of the map and got battle cruisers. Like, once I didn't break you with that initial frigate push,
Group 5
I should have
under
just
attack.
gone
Group
home.
8 reports enemy contact.
Like, there was
Interceptor
no
squadron
sense in
complete.
continuing
Group
this.
5 reports enemy
And the
contact.
destroyers are just, like, there's nothing I can do to stop these.
Attack vector laid in.
Battle cruiser complete.
Yeah, so at this point
Battlecruiser.
you'll notice I'm moving a carrier to that left side to take the 4th patch, so I've learned from my mistake in the prior game.
Yes.
Do expand because
Group
your
2
patches start to run out
reinforced.
around 25
Group 10
minutes.
under attack.
Absolutely.
To battle positions. Strike group attack order confirmed.
Group 4 under attack.
Oh, yeah.
Interceptor squadron complete.
Missile corvettes, I'm like, oh, I outnumber him again. I'll try taking this fight. It doesn't work.
Responding.
Group
Um,
4 assigned.
Like, I
Group
barely
5
go even with these
assigned.
pulsars. And I'm pretty sure you're reinforcing them.
Group 5
Yeah, I've been
under attack.
basically I've been rebuilding
Group 8
Pulsar and
under
Interceptor
attack.
from both of my carriers the
Pulsar
whole game.
gunship squadron
Yep.
complete.
I don't have I even lost a destroyer this whole game, or have I just
Nope.
pretty much rehealed each of them?
I'm pretty
Group
sure they've
10
all been
reports
healed.
enemy
That's the
contact.
big
Yeah,
thing with
so-
destroyers, right? You know, it's like, with the frigates, they're great,
Group
but
1
they take up your
reinforced.
queues. Whereas the destroyers just stay alive, so you can focus on building the swarm.
Group 1
Mhm.
assigned.
Copy.
Group
Yeah,
2
so that's
reinforced.
kind of what I've been doing these last few games. You know, I'll
Group
just
2
build
reports enemy
destroyers on my
contact.
motherships. I won't worry about building frigates so much, and that lets me focus on corvettes and fighters on my carriers.
Yep.
Strike group to battle positions. Reporting.
Heavy
Pulsar
missiles
gunship
just trying to
squadron complete.
valiantly be produced quick enough to somehow stop 5 destroyers pushing in on the carriers.
Frigate under attack. Strike group
It's
receiving
not going to
fire.
happen.
Group 5 reports enemy
I'd need
contact.
max frigates at this point to even contest that, and even then it would be
Under attack.
a scrappy fight, but
Attack vector laid in.
Frigate lost.
Confirmed.
Group 10 under attack.
yeah, just a very sort of
Breach in starboard fusion chamber.
head scratcher
Clear.
game from
Frigate
me.
lost.
All personnel.
You know, like,
code red.
yeah,
Stay on top
obviously
of
you played really
Group
well,
10
but
reports enemy contact.
Receiving.
I'm just looking at
Group 1
my play here, and it's sort of like,
Frigate
well,
under attack. Docking with mothership.
like, I didn't
Group under enemy
do
attack.
anything
Group
good at
2
all. It was sort of like,
Five,
I got my collectors up, that was the good part, and then
Group
after
6
everything after about
designated.
5 minutes was sort of like,
Group 10
why?
under attack.
Why did you do that?
Receiving. Life support failure. Strike group reports.
Obviously it's
hostile contact.
easy to
Cabin
criticize
pressure
as a
dropping.
caster,
Group
but
10 reports
oh yeah,
enemy
this is where I was like,
contact.
what the hell? There's no way he can have this many pulsars still alive.
Pulsar gunship squadron complete. Group 6
Like, I have-
reports
Look at
enemy
this.
contact.
It's
Group 10
22
under
minutes in the
attack.
game.
Group
It
3
was
defeated.
26 minutes in the game, and I just started frigate production maybe 4 minutes ago.
Yep.
You know, this whole time I've just been
Attack order
rebuilding
confirmed.
pulsars, rebuilding
Group
interceptors,
six
and I've kept the
under
swarm
attack.
maxed out the whole game.
Yep.
Strike group receiving fire. Attack vector laid in. Moving while engaging.
So yeah,
Group 10 reports enemy contact.
destroyer's just on top of everything.
Group 6
I can barely
reports enemy
produce
contact.
frigates as fast as they're getting killed.
Group 10 under
The
attack.
cruiser was kind of sitting idle for a bit as well, but now it's sort of trundling into battle, and once it arrives, I think I just press forfeit. Because
Are clear. Assembly underway.
I already can't handle what you've got.
Hyperspace inhibitor
The
detected.
cruiser's just such
Underway.
it's a hat on a hat. Like, I just like, what am I gonna do? Nothing.
The mothership is receiving
I think I
light
actually
fire.
get a,
Group
was
10
this the game where I got a
reports enemy
shipyard?
contact.
No, that was
5
a
copies.
different game.
Strike group
Um,
under enemy attack.
Group 6 reports enemy contact.
Yeah,
Combat
just
stations look sharp. Standing by.
Group 1
like nothing
designated.
particularly.
Strike group
Yeah,
receiving fire.
So a couple things I do want to point out. So look at my queue over there on my carrier. I've
Group
got
2
a flak,
reinforced.
50 interceptors, 59 pulsar, 59 iron frigates. This is something
Group
that
2
Homeworld
assigned.
lets you do. You can stack up all these units in your queue,
Flak frigate
and it doesn't
complete.
cost you anything until they start building.
Yep.
A lot of RTS games like StarCraft 2, you can only start building a unit if you have enough funds to build the whole unit. So one thing I always take advantage of, I fill up those
Mothership.
queues. Look at that, 55 destroyers. There's never going to be a point when
Group
my
6
mothership or
under
my
attack.
shipyard are not
Pulsar
building
gunship
something that
squadron
they need to be
complete.
building.
Yep.
One critique I can offer you, Fear, is that I do notice you tend to build, 2 destroyers on your mothership,
Assigned.
Yeah.
and then 5 minutes later your mothership's not doing anything. It's good from a reactionary standpoint. Yeah, I want to change up my build
Group
depending on
2
what my
has
opponent
defeated the
does,
enemy.
but it certainly leads to some lost production times when you don't take advantage of this feature that Homeworld lets you do that most
Pulsar
RTS
gunship
games do
squadron
not.
complete.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely
Pulsar
true.
gunship
I
squadron
tend to.
complete.
I actually have that problem mainly with frigates, especially like when I'm producing from carriers. I find that with Homeworld 1 specifically. Like, I always queue up like 3 or 4 assault frigates, and then like I don't know why. Like, I should just hold down shift and like queue up 25 of them.
Yeah,
And just like
you
react
press shift, you build 5 clicks, you've got 25 in the queue.
Yep, exactly. But I don't know. It's just it's a habit that I just don't even think about while I'm in the middle of a game. But yeah, it's definitely something I need to do. But yeah, so
And I will say that comes from many mistakes of years gone by where I'm ahead, I'm winning, I'm microing my heart out, and then I notice my mothership or my carrier or my shipyard haven't been building anything for the past 2 minutes.
right, yeah, absolutely. It's crushing when you're like, don't worry, my next battle cruiser will show up anytime, and then you look at the shipyard and it's like, the worst thing is when you've got something paused, like. Because it's just sitting there so silently and it's paused. Like, I've done that with research so many times. Like, oh, why can't I build destroyers? Oh, I've paused my destroyer attack at like 60% or something and I just lose. But anyway, that was game 3. Nothing, like, aside from fundamental things, nothing particularly spicy happened that game. I just sort of... I mean, look at the ships killed. Like... I don't know. I just threw myself into the wood chipper. Is how to describe that game. Yeah. Anyway, that was game 3. Let's get into game 4. All right. So this is the 4th game that we played. So we were just on Sarum Badlands. Now we're on Sarum Dust Clouds.
Production underway.
Now this is a big map. Right, this is
Production
huge.
underway.
It's not quite fully crossed positions,
Destroy enemy motherships.
but they are across from each other.
Confirmed.
Mothership
Yeah, so this map for a
Mothership
1v1 setting,
underway. Scout
probably too
squadron
big,
complete.
right?
Group
Yeah,
2
it's
designated.
gigantic. I think it's 31
Group
kilometers
7
from the
designated.
spawns to each other,
Right.
and then if you expand backwards, it's like probably
Mothership.
closer to 39
Resource
kilometers.
collection
So
Absolutely.
Mothership.
it's almost like playing a 1v1 on Crimson's Bond. It's just a gigantic map for
Yep.
1v1.
I guess so. Back when I was making the
Mothership
map pool,
fighter facility complete.
I was
New
like,
fighters
we've got a lot
available
of
for construction.
scrappy
Production
maps.
underway. Resource
Like
collector complete.
we got Shield in there, we got Fallen Lords, Armed for Burial, and a lot of players, the newer players and things like that, they might appreciate having the space to just play a
Confirmed.
perhaps a more
Mothership.
lax game or something like
Resource
that.
collector
So
complete.
I was like, let's put a big map in there. Something interesting might happen out of it. We might get some nice cruiser fights or something. So that's why I threw this map specifically into the pool. In retrospect, I probably should have put like the mirrored positions on the same side of the map. You know what I mean?
Mothership
Mhm.
sensors array
Yeah,
complete.
definitely.
Coordinates locked in.
Yeah, that probably would have been a good one had we been had I been spawning on the left side of the map here.
Squadron
Yep.
complete.
Strike group moving into position.
Unfortunately,
Or even the
though,
right side of where I'm at. You see on the right side?
Yeah.
That would probably
Assembly
respond
underway.
to.
Ah, yeah.
Production underway.
So yeah, I rolled Vega again. which I wasn't happy about. I don't like playing Vega in the long game. I don't like Vega overall. It's probably my weakest race.
Mothership.
I don't know, actually. I guess
Thank you.
I guess it depends on what kind of game it is.
Mothership
I feel like
underway.
Vega's okay in the early game, but
Attack confirmed.
as it moves forward, especially once I get the third unit type,
Resource
I
collector
always
complete.
forget to move into capitals. Like, once I got the frigates, I always have this huge like time where I'm floating thousands of RUs before I start building destroyers and cruisers and things like that.
Resource
So
collector complete.
Yeah. And I'll say, Theo, that's definitely your play style. You know, I feel the opposite. I feel Vaegir has the strongest
Production
late
underway.
game over Hig.
yeah,
The micro potential of destroyers and cruisers is quite high. You can launch your missiles back up, and for Hig destroyers and battle cruisers, you have to be in range the whole time to fire those
Mothership.
destroyer guns and to keep those ions on target.
Yep.
So you can certainly micro
Resource
your heart
collector
out with
complete.
Vaegir capital ships and get a huge advantage.
absolutely. So yeah, this is because of the size of the map, it's basically just
Resource collector
guaranteed
complete.
to turn
Mothership.
into one of these huge macro scale fights.
Mothership.
Yeah, I might actually put it at 1.25 speed for a while,
Resources locked in.
just because this game is going to be a very slow burning game. There's actually not much action that happens. I try and start a scuffle later, but that is actually
Ready for order.
significantly later, so I'm probably going to slap on the 125 speed.
Production underway.
Yeah, look at this scout here. I don't think you noticed this for quite some time.
don't.
I've just
I-
got it hanging out in that dust cloud.
I can't see it. It's in the dust cloud. I
Production underway.
completely can't see it at all.
Resource collector complete.
I have a probe in that
Production underway.
cloud that the scout is part of, but it's in such a position where it just can't quite see the scout. It's more in like at the center of the cloud. So the scout positioning
Mobile
there
refinery
is
complete.
Move attack confirmed.
I can't see that at
Mothership.
all.
Collector
Like
response.
I had no like inkling that there was a scout in there at all.
Coordinates confirmed.
Yeah, so look, this game, it's so big, I'm taking an expansion
Mothership
even quicker than the
capital
last
ship
game.
facility
So I'm
complete.
sending
New
my
capital ships
refinery off for
available
the third
construction.
patch now.
Resource
Yep.
collector complete.
And I think I just open.
Production
I get the
underway.
one
Resource
interceptor to
collector
deny
complete.
scouting and probes, but then everything else I'm just gonna, you know, focus on maxing out 22 collectors before any attack units.
Yep.
On our way, prepping for
So
collection.
one thing I'll say about my playstyle in this game and the previous game
Roger.
is that it's very
Resource collector
Um,
complete.
Engage all hostiles.
it's born of playing
Resource
during a
collector
period
Resources downrange.
of
Waiting
Homeworld
time.
where there's actually
attack
not
confirmed.
that many great players around. Because like what I do is I get like max economy really fast, and then I just push in
Moving to
once I
destination.
reach like
Collector
max on
Production
2 unit
underway.
types, and I'm moving into a third. And like against most players, that's it.
Assembly
Like
underway.
you're gonna win
Resource
because
collector complete.
you just outproduced them and you made the right units.
Responding.
And maybe you do
Activation
something
enabled.
cute, like you kill a couple of collectors
Collection
around here and there,
underway.
but
Copy. Heading cleared. Resources downrange.
against the player like who is
New
not
upgrades available.
like
Mothership
still
research
learning
module
or
complete.
is just at least they're a veteran at the game, it just doesn't work out
Striker
because
coordinates locked
they're
in.
not gonna let you. Like you're not gonna
Probe
let me
complete.
just walk over to the other side of the map for free, unprepared, and just let me roll you. Like you're gonna be prepared. You're gonna have the mines. You're gonna have the destroyers, and like the things that typically work currently against most players are just completely gonna
Carrier
be
complete.
like ineffectual. So
Probe
I
away.
I wouldn't
Resource
say
collector
like
complete.
I'm moving into this
Standing
match
by.
here like
Strike group
underestimating
coordinates locked in.
you as an
Strike group
opponent or
coordinates
anything.
locked in.
It's just like
Strike group moving into position.
I've learned bad habits, I guess is the best way to describe it. Like
Standing by.
Yeah,
Coordinates locked
I
in.
can
Strike
definitely
group
agree
down.
with that. You know, I look at
Acknowledge. On our way.
your decision making, your instincts.
Berths are clear.
They're
Assembly underway.
very strong and on point, but your
Interceptor squadron
knowledge of
complete.
kind of like the meta, the best
Standing by.
build for the size of the map.
Strike group devastated.
Certainly that experience is a little bit lacking on your side.
Collector
Yep.
responding. No problem. Visiting
and
main
it's
squad. Waiting
kind of
order.
annoying because it's like
Probe complete.
I'm not like a psychic. I can't just know this
Group
kind of
10
stuff. Like
reinforced.
the reason there's metas and stuff and the unit compositions and what to prioritize in a fight and things like that.
Destination
Like you
locked in.
learn that through
Probe
experience and like not just
Interceptor
solo
squadron
experience.
complete.
You learn
Strike
it
group moving
through
into position. Group one
having
copy.
good players to
Subsystem
play
construction
against
complete.
and like
Waiting
learning
time.
together
Strike
in that
group
way.
prepare for assault.
And honestly, probably the second best player
Assembly underway.
Mothership.
of the
Probe
player base,
dispatched.
aside from
Roger.
myself and yourself, I'd probably have to say it might be Taigai, you know, like, and Taigai is not a veteran. He learns quite quickly, and he's pretty good, but he's definitely not playing at the level that, for example, people were playing at back in Homeworld 2 Classic, like, you know, like Hideki and people like that, and Finger, like, the level of gameplay is just not even close to how it was back then. So it's kind of like I'm sitting here with no combat experience, trying to just wing it, I guess. But
yeah, definitely.
Interceptor squadron complete.
So yeah, just a really lax game from. I mean, from your perspective, this is going really well, because it's like, yeah, I wanted this. Here's my destroyers. They're in production. Getting collector repair even, and the collector armor upgrade, which is I hate that upgrade. I hate collector armor.
I've been pretty much doing this build the last few games here. I'm getting interceptors. I'm getting corvettes on my carrier. I'm getting destroyers. The first upgrade I'm going with is repair and collector hull. That way, no matter what you try to attack, if you try to attack my collectors, I've got a little more health on them. If you try to do a sneaky move and sink one of my carriers with laser or mine layers, then I can just take my collectors and start repairing my carrier to keep it alive. So it really kind of covers the bases against some of the early sneak moves that you could do on
Yep. I really dislike the collector hull upgrade. I don't know, like, fundamentally I just disagree with it as something to have in the game. I think it's necessary in Homeworld for the Homeworld 2 races, because it's their only source of repair, right? Even so, I'm still not that much of a fan of it. I feel like, I don't know, it just kind of dulls the game down a bit. It's kind of a crutch, almost, you know, like, oh, I don't want to get poked in my IU patches and stuff. I'm just gonna, like, get this upgrade. And it's
look at this scout. I'm so sad I lost my scout there. I didn't move it far enough left, and you kept chasing me, and when it stopped, you killed it.
Yep. That's the story every time. You should just waypoint them, even though they're like slower these days. It's like the speed is actually, turns out, it doesn't really matter. As long as you're sufficiently fast, like I'd say above 450 move speed is enough. The interceptor guns just, like, the projectiles don't move fast enough. They just can't hit you if you're, like, moving left or right relative to the interceptor. So if you waypoint them in a circle, their survivability is insane.
Group 10 reporting. Setting drives to idle. Stay sharp.
Upgrade complete.
Roger.
Yeah, so here I come. I'm looking around, I'm trying to swing left and right, trying to maybe catch something that's out of position, or like maybe you'll move your interceptors over here and then I'll be able to kill a collector over here, things like that. I'm trying to play a really scrappy style, because I don't know.
Group 3.
I don't know why. It just appeals to me, I suppose.
So your laser just popped out of nowhere. Did you have a carrier cloaked, or what the heck happened there?
I think they're below the plane, right? They're far down.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I remember now. So they're below the plane. I think a probe just popped on my side, so they just suddenly came into vision. I actually kind of freaked out for a second when I was playing this game. I'm like, is there a cloak carrier below me? What the hell? Are 10 laser about to pop and sink my carrier? What's going on?
Yeah. No, I just put them below because I was like, maybe I can sneak up and kill some collectors or something. Obviously, you've got the collector armor, so any kind of guerrilla tactics like that are just going to be like half as effective, like literally half as effective, because it's they've got 2,000 health, right? And then they go up to 4,000.
I think it's 25, and then they go up to 4,000.
Yeah.
That way, Homeworld 1, for example, they start with 4,000 since I don't have any upgrades. So.
Yeah.
As is the case with every Homeworld 2 unit, they start weak and they get stronger once you get your upgrade.
So you have some interceptors here in a very ambitious position.
I'm just feeding them to the enemy there.
Yeah. I think they get out, though.
Look at this. I stick them on evasive, and you've only got one squad that's really in range to attack, so I think I come out clean.
Group 1
Yep.
reports enemy contact. Mothership underway.
Group 1 receiving.
Obviously, the
Strike group
destroyer
moving
is
into
already out on the
position.
field.
Strike group
This
coordinates
game, I'm going the
Pulsar
Corvette
gunship
way
squadron
first.
complete.
Acknowledged.
The reason,
Group
actually, I
2
went the Corvettes first, there's actually a mine layer over there. At the center RU patch, that's a mine layer Corvette.
Group 1 designated.
Strike
I went
group
Corvettes because I
coordinates
wanted
locked in.
to... I thought, you know, Sarum Dust
Pulsar
Clouds,
gunship squadron
you know, there's a
complete.
lot of RUs on the map, but they're quite spaced out, and there's a lot of
Group 2
clouds that I can
reinforced.
hide in.
Subsystems construction
I was thinking
complete.
maybe I
Strike group
can
moving into
shark
position.
around the map,
New upgrades
like
available.
kill
Strike group
collectors,
moving into
be
position. En route.
really active with my units. But
Oh yeah, definitely.
Assembly underway.
Pulsar gunship
obviously you've got the
squadron complete.
pulsars,
Group
which
2
is already
assigned.
that's like
Strike
one
group
hit
moving into
against
position.
that style,
Ready for
and then you've got the
Group
collector armor,
confirmed.
which is
Strike group moving into position.
it's just so good. Like it's
That
an
don't
insanely
mean
good
nothing
upgrade.
versus laser and,
Oh, no,
and
I
missile
agree.
and pulsar. They take them down quick, but it does help versus early fighter
Pulsar
aggression.
gunship squadron
Yeah.
complete. Group 2 reinforced.
Strike group coordinates
So
locked in. Acknowledged.
you notice I've got some flak in the middle. The bad thing about Storm for Hig
Group
is
2 reinforced.
these patches are really spread out. So I've got 2 flak kind of sitting in the middle, and whenever you try to poke, I gotta walk them all the way to the left or all the way to the right. It's a little hard to defend if you would have had, you know, an EMP swarm going, and you know,
Yeah.
if you would have got an EMP and got a good hit off, my flak would have been quite a bit ways behind the battle.
Yeah.
Pulsar gunship squadron complete.
This is group 2.
Yep.
Research complete.
I was just,
New utility class ships available for
I
construction.
don't know.
Group
I
1
was
standing by. Ready.
in my defense. It was like 4 a.m. at this point.
Standing by.
And I was like struggling to focus on things. Like I was sitting there. I was like, wait, oh crap! I forgot to actually start building
Pulsar
frigates and things like that.
complete.
Strike
Um,
coordinates locked in.
Like really
Group
mistakes
5
that I just
designated.
Green line confirmed.
I wouldn't make usually. I think they were starting to pop out during this game. This is the game I actually floated
Upgrade
15k, which I think is a record for me. I don't think I've ever floated that much,
Pulsar gunship
especially in a
squadron
1v1. But
Bursts are clear.
I think it was about now.
Construction underway.
Just before I start making my frigates, I'm floating about 15,000 RUs.
Collector drawing fire.
Group 2
Which, I mean, imagine if I had 15,000 RUs worth of units on the field, in addition to what I have now, right? It would be a different hold, but unfortunately it's not the case. My laser's coming on the right, because I thought I'd poke you on the left, and come in on the right.
Upgrade complete.
Another thing I thought here is, like, I've got some Lancers and
Group
missile
2 reports
corvettes,
enemy contact.
and your pulsars are by themselves. Like, maybe I can take a really good fight, but the missiles underperform
Torpedo frigate complete.
Strike group prepare for assault.
due to their lower HP. And the Lancers actually get really bad RNG, and also I think one of them is an evasive, so...
Group 10
Oh
reports
yeah,
enemy
they don't.
contact.
Any fighter or Corvette does a lot less damage in evasive.
All right, that's
Yep.
it. Retirement confirmed. Group 1 reporting. Strike group locked in.
So
Group
my
1
interceptor's
assigned.
like...
Hyperspace inhibitor detected.
It's at this point that I'm
Group
thinking,
1
oh
standing by.
god, I
Strike
need
group
to
coordinates
start
locked
getting
in.
an advantage
Group 3
building,
copy.
otherwise
Destroyer complete.
it's going to be last game again. You're just going to get these destroyers in a big bundle, and I'm going to lose the game.
Shipyard has arrived. Group 1 reports enemy contact.
Watch for debris. Group 3.
So look at this. I've got a shipyard that just popped
Yep.
at the bottom of the map.
Strike group receiving fire.
Pulsar gunship squadron.
I saw that as
complete.
well. There's actually a scout behind you
Hostile contact.
that
Group 2
sees
copy.
that shipyard,
Down carrier. Strike group
but
reports hostile
I
contact.
couldn't do
What's our
anything,
damage?
like...
Strike group to battle position.
I was trying to, like...
Friendly units.
I don't know, I was
Strike
trying to
group
push you
receiving
in,
fire.
but...
Strike group attack order confirmed. Strike
I was
group attack order
floating, I
confirmed.
was
Pulsar gunship
miscontrolling my
squadron
units, I
complete.
wasn't docking, I was far away from my docks.
Intercept
My
course
carriers
locked in.
got chased away.
Strike
That
group
mine
moving
layer
into
is laying
position.
mines,
Course. Bursts
um,
clear. Assembly underway.
but it was so heartbreaking. I looked at it later.
Set.
Because of the
While engaged.
increased range
5
on the
reports
Homeworld 2
enemy
mine
contact.
layers compared to Homeworld 1, I misjudged it
Mothership
completely,
facility under
and
attack.
all of those mines were hitting the RU
Reporting friendly
subsystem.
units. Cloak field disengaged.
Like, none of them did
Under attack.
any damage at
Assembly
all.
underway.
Like, it
Stand
should have
by.
been an
Standing by.
entire patch
Group 5
gone,
reinforced.
but...
Understood. Moving while engaged.
It,
Group 10
yeah,
under
the mines are
attack.
just hitting the subsystem.
Pulsar gunship squadron complete.
Just
Yeah,
really
so that
annoying.
mine layer's on the far left by my mothership.
Yeah.
Group 10 reports enemy contact.
Strike group prepare for assault. Strike group prepare
So the
for
fight
assault.
for me didn't go convincingly, which is
Mothership
really,
capital
really
ship
bad.
facility under attack.
I needed to get an advantage on one unit type. Like, if I got the Corvette advantage, great. If I got the fighter
Group
advantage,
5
great.
assigned.
But I didn't get any advantage. Everything is sort of stalemated,
Group 2 reinforced.
which is good for
Group
you
5
because you've
under
got
attack.
the tech lead on the destroyers.
Order confirmed. Group 3
Yeah,
reporting.
destroyers have just pushed you all the way back across the map. I mean, your carriers are way back in that dust cloud now trying to run away.
Yep.
Group 2 reporting. Strike group coordinates locked in. Group 5 reporting. Attack coordinates locked in.
Group 2 under attack.
Course set. Subsystem
So at this point, I don't
construction
even have a target for these destroyers, so I think I actually stick them on the mothership just to do something with them.
Yeah, you do. Because the carriers, obviously, there was a cloak on one of them, and the other three just got away.
Enemy contact.
Standing by.
Group 5 reinforced.
Understood.
Yeah.
Copy.
My mind layer, this is the point I looked at it and I was like, oh, really?
Group 5 under
I
attack.
think I said it in chat, I can't remember though.
Reporting friendly units. Strike group coordinates locked in. En route.
Group 1 reports enemy contact. Group 5.
But yeah, things are looking really desperate for me now. Like, the cruiser is on the way, right? Even if it's... I can't remember if you've already started producing it, but...
Oh, look at this, my research. I got my shipyard, and my research is just now 30%, so...
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure if I was going for a double destroyer, and then I realized you didn't have much for frigs, and I figured, oh, well, time to go cruiser now.
Yeah.
Group 5
I think I honestly expected you to have a lot more frigs at this point in the game.
Well, I should have.
But, like you said, you were floating RU, so that was not the case.
Group 1 reports enemy
Yep.
contact.
I was floating a ton.
Group 5 copies.
Group 10
I
reports
should have had 3 or 4 lancers,
Docking with mothership.
maybe 2 or 3 assault frigates, and then instead of missile corvettes, laser
Group 1
corvettes.
designated.
Roger.
That would have been a much better
Reinforced.
composition
Moving into position.
than what I'm currently
Torpedo
fielding.
frigate complete.
I feel like the missile corvettes are a really low tier unit
Lock all weapons on
in this
target.
matchup right now, just because of the
Attack order confirmed.
matchup they have with the pulsars.
To battle positions. Group 5 standing by. Group 1 receiving. Strike group.
So yeah, the cruisers are now in production,
Group 10 reinforced.
and
Underway.
yikes, like,
Group 5
I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, in this scenario, I don't know what to do.
Group 1 strike group moving into position.
Group 2
Like, I'm gonna have to get a
under
miracle
attack.
hold. You're gonna have to blunder your units, is basically
Group 1 under attack.
the way I get into this game. Like, you're gonna have
Group
to
2 reports enemy contact.
throw your interceptors away, you're gonna have to throw a destroyer or
Group
3
1
away.
reinforced.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get lucky. You're gonna have to mess up in this game for me to come
I'm
back.
gonna have to accidentally click the scuttle key.
Yep, exactly. You're gonna have to cancel your battle cruiser when it's at 99%, which I've done.
Group 1 reports enemy contact.
It's gonna be something like that that brings me back, but
Group 5 reporting.
Mothership. Iron Cannon frigate complete.
Moving to destination.
So look at this. Look. So on the left side of the screen, you'll notice I've got my production queues up.
yeah.
I'm maxed out on everything except for battle cruisers.
Yes.
So I have 5
Group 1
destroyers.
under attack.
I have full interceptor, full pulsar.
Roger.
Group
I'm
5
sitting
reports enemy
here
contact.
This is group
just
1.
not building
Locked
anything
in.
basically.
Strike
So
group
I'm
locked in. Group 5.
I'm about to transition into ion frigs, I believe, because at the moment I'm not building much of anything.
Strike group to battle
Yeah.
positions. Strike group prepare for assault. Attack vector laid in.
Group 1 reports enemy contact.
So I'm trying to take
Group 1
a fight against the
reports
destroyers.
Combat maneuver
It's not going awfully, like, it's going badly,
Group
but it's
one
not
under
it's not the
attack.
worst fight in this game.
Standing by.
Um,
Strike group under enemy attack.
But the reason I'm moving in so aggressively at this point, and almost like desperately, is because, you know, I see the shipyard. I see it's making something. I see the capital
The
class
mothership is
facility,
taking light enemy
and
fire.
I'm saying, well, if I can't
Mothership sensor array under
get
attack.
an advantage in the next 3 or 4 minutes, that's it. If the cruiser's gonna pop out, I'm dead.
Mothership
So
underway.
that's why I'm sort of taking a fight that is perhaps a bit questionable. But to be honest, the game is kind of like I said it just a minute ago. Like, you're gonna have to mess up for me to come back into this one.
Hyperspace inhibitor detected.
I went for a
Goodness, you got
miracle.
a
Yeah.
Marine on my destroyer trying to hope for a
Group
lucky
5
capture.
designated.
Yep.
It
And
got
when
quite-
they're half health, look at this. It's going up quick. When they're half health, they capture about 4 times quicker than usual.
yeah, I looked at the
Group 10 under
the
attack.
tuning
Group 1
lure
designated.
file. The maximum multiplier is 8 times. So if you have a destroyer on, like, you know, 5% health or something, that infiltrator or marine is just gonna absolutely, it's zoop, it's gone.
Group
Like,
2 reinforced.
while it's telling you it's being captured, it's probably already gone. So yeah, the cruiser is imminent at this point.
Group 1 reports enemy
So
contact.
I want to point out, see how I'm dock microing so efficiently over there?
Yep.
I just went from 12 squads to 6 very quickly. So what I'll do is I'll click on the one that's yellow or red.
Interceptor
I'll then
squadron
hit the
complete.
dock hotkey. There's also a hotkey that you can assign
Group
to
2
remove
under
a
attack.
unit
Group
from
3
your
under
strike group.
attack.
Yep.
So for example, if I've got everything on
Group 2
control group
reports enemy
1 for
contact.
fighters,
Group
I'll
10
press this
under attack.
hotkey. It will remove that fighter from control
Group
group
2
1.
under attack.
And then if I
Group 10
really need to
reports
get a
enemy
unit
contact.
back to dock quicks, I'll also
Group
press
2
the
reports enemy
evasive
contact.
hotkey.
Yeah.
So within about a second, I'm selecting the unit, pressing the dock key, pressing the, remove from control group, and then pressing that evasive hotkey. And I just did that for 6 units, in a few seconds. So
Yep. Yeah,
you
did it
develop
right there.
a rhythm to bounce between those hotkeys, and it's kind of engraved in my brain, and you get some real efficiencies on your dock micro.
Docking with battlecruiser. Docking with mothership. I've taken a hit. Group 1.
So yeah, the battlecruisers just showed up, and at this point I'm looking at the game and I'm sort of thinking, well, whoops,
Group 1 under attack.
you know, like,
Group 5
I had this
assigned.
2-0
Group 3
lead,
reports enemy contact.
and I'm looking at the current scenario
Group
that's
5
playing out, and I'm
reports
sort of
enemy
thinking,
contact.
well, there goes my lead, right? You know, the cruisers on the field. I've got no frigates. I'm not winning the Corvette fight. I'm not winning the Interceptor fight. I won't have cruisers. Like, I just won't build them during this game. I don't have time. I think what I build is a destroyer or something like that. And it's,
Yeah, and you'll notice I'm learning from my mistake in game 2. I
Yes.
just relocated most of my collectors to that far left expansion.
absolutely.
Group 3 under attack.
Hyperspace inhibitor detected. I caught one. Ready for orders. Destination locked in. Strike group moving into position. Confirmed.
Group 1 reinforced.
Responding. Strike group moving into position. Strike group coordinates locked in.
Yikes.
Coordinates confirmed.
Yeah, just the death ball builds up. The cruiser leads the charge.
Berths are clear. Berths are clear. Berths are clear.
Yeah, I get the cruiser. I feel like
Ion cannon frigate.
during the
Group 6 copies.
engagement, the cruiser, like, I did surprising damage to it, but obviously it gets away because I don't have the steam at this point. Like, I just don't have the units. Like, the frigates are fine, but you need that solid core. Like, you need the cruiser, you need the destroyers, you need the capitals to actually have the health pool to anchor your fleet in place, so you can actually have those frigates fly around and do the damage that they need to do.
Understood.
Group 5 reinforced.
Ready. On our way.
So the fight starts.
Probe complete.
That's all I have. Like, I just have those frigates.
Flak
That
frigate
is the sum
complete.
total
Group
of my
4
units.
reinforced.
En route.
They drift into a cloak, so they get closer than they probably would be able to usually.
Group 3 copies.
But that's not going to be enough.
Group 3 reinforced.
Underway. Group 2
Even a
copies.
proxy
Strike
detector
group
coming in
moving
for me
into
now.
position. Strike group coordinates locked in. Group 6 acknowledged. Target entered a dust cloud. They're off our sensors. Attacking capital ship.
Ion cannon frigate complete.
Standing by.
Group 1 reports enemy contact.
Combat maneuver confirmed. Attack clearance received. Group 1 standing by.
Group 5 under attack.
Strike group moving into position. Group 2 copies.
So yeah, I was so like,
Strike group prepare for assault.
Group
I
3
have to
reports
somehow
enemy contact.
miraculously
Group 5 designated.
defeat
Group
this
5
cruiser
reports enemy contact.
that I started adding laser corvettes when I really had no
Confirmed. Frigates under
room to
attack.
do so. You know, I
Intercept
should have
course
been
punched in.
keeping on with the missile
Standing by.
corvettes
Destination canceled.
because
Coordinates
the pulsar
Ion
count is
cannon
so
frigate
high.
complete.
Resources.
But I was just like, you know, I have to do something against the frigates and destroyers.
Mothership. Group 4 under attack.
So I tried to add on extra damage with the lasers, but
Strike group receiving fire.
Group 10 reports enemy contact.
Group 1 copies.
Group 4 reports
Yeah, and
enemy
really,
contact.
you know, this game and even the last game, they come down to just kind of that
Group
lack
10
of
under
meta
attack.
knowledge. You know,
Yeah.
and on most of these maps, they're quite large. You know, you're not going to have a whole lot of luck pushing across with some of these lower tier units. So you want to build into those destroyers as Vaegir. You want to you know, get your shipyard up a little bit sooner.
Initiating hyperspace jump.
Group 4 under attack.
A lot of people have a misconception that Vaegir destroyer isn't a good unit to build.
Group 10 reports enemy
It's wrong.
contact.
It's a great unit to build. It's just about
Group 4
you know, as
reports enemy
desirable
contact.
as a Hig destroyer.
yeah.
You really want to get those mixed in with your build on most maps that aren't, you know, the
Group
size
10
of Shield.
under attack.
Anything bigger, certainly mix it in.
Frigate lost.
In the
Group 10
time that
reports enemy
you
contact.
build about 2.5 frigates, you can have a destroyer, and that destroyer is going to kill 4 to 5 frigates. So
Yep.
it's very efficient on your mothership production queue. It's got a ton of health, and Vaegir destroyers, you know, because they have those missiles, they can out micro a Hig
Group 2
destroyer. You
reports enemy
can
contact.
get in
Group 1
range,
under
launch
attack.
your missile volley,
Group 2
and pull
under
back
attack.
out, and
Ion
you can
cannon
out
frigate
micro
complete.
a
Flak
Hig
frigate
and destroyer
complete.
player.
Acknowledge. Repair order confirmed. Moving while engaging. Group 5 standing by.
Group 10 under attack.
Group 1 standing by. All breach.
The downside of Vaegir destroyers is that their upgrades for the capital ship armor cost more.
Group 1 reports enemy contact.
So that is the challenge that you've got to contend with, is being able to afford that.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, to be fair, you know,
Target confirmed.
even with
Group 10 reports enemy
90,000
contact.
health,
Engage capital ship.
like you're saying, you know, you can fire the volley and then just run away.
Strike group coordinates locked in.
The Vega
Ion cannon
Destroyer
certificate complete.
doesn't have to
Strike
stay
group
there
moving into position.
and
Report
have its
position.
health pool
Group
chipped
3
away at,
assigned.
like the
Order
Higaran
confirmed.
Destroyer
Group 1
does.
copies.
You know,
Strike
especially
group
against
attack order
frigates, right?
confirmed. Orders are
Like,
clear, assembly
especially
underway.
against
Construction underway. Construction underway.
Homeworld
Standing
1
by.
irons,
Engage
which are
all
like
hostiles.
really short range and have
Standing
terrible
by.
tracking.
Strike group moving into
You can just
position.
fire the volley and just run away.
We'll be right there. Reporting.
It
Group 2
gives you that
reinforced.
extra
Guided
bonus
scope. We're losing
survivability,
control.
so
Strike
they're actually
group
more
coordinates locked in.
survivable
Copy.
than
Group
the
5
Higaran
reinforced.
ones, against the frigates at least. So having 90,000 health for a while is annoying. You don't want it, but it's not like breaking for the destroyer, just because it has the missile mechanics. But yeah, so this game.
So just look at that kill count.
yeah, I'll actually get back to that if I can catch it. Combat. Yeah.
So yeah, 428 kills to 154. I mean, this was, as you saw in the video, completely one-sided.
Yep. I just made a million tiny units with no real like direction and like no core to them, you know, no anchor. Just because I don't know, I was just being, I in my defense, I was very tired. Like I said, I was floating. This wasn't like, I don't know. I guess anyone would say this after watching themselves lose, but I feel like it wasn't quite representative of like my typical gameplay. But
For sure.
yeah, definitely. You know, I was just being stubborn, to be honest. It was like I hate building. I don't like playing a long con game. I feel like if I play a long con game, I've somehow sort of like failed to, like, I just need to go quicker. Like if I can play fast enough in the early game or something like that, or if I can like micro like multi-pronged harassment and stuff like this, surely I can stop the guy from getting that destroyable. But obviously in this game at least definitely didn't work out, and I should have just bit the bullet and said, you know, he's already got the destroyers, the map is huge, I might as well just go for that capital composition myself.
Yeah, and this one was Fear's map pick too. So
yeah, exactly. Anyway, let's stop roasting me, and we'll go into game 5 after this. Okay, so this is going to be the final game, right? Game 5, Grand Finals, Winners Bracket, Fear versus Cloaked. Me versus this damn guy. And I will say, you know, like, I had that initial rush of victory. You know, I went 2-0 up, and I was like, oh, I won't drop a game this whole tournament. That's really good. And then, you know, the first loss happened, and I was like, oh, god damn it, I lost my 100%. But no problem. I've still got 2 games to recover. And yeah, then the second loss happens, and I'm kind of sweating at this point, because it's like, wow, now it's just one loss, and I actually fall at the final hurdle, I guess.
Enemy motherships. Mothership underway.
But were you feeling good coming into this game? Because I mean, you just
So-
beat me twice in a row.
Scouts
yeah, so you know, from my perspective, the first game I lost. The second game, I felt like, you know, had I not had I relocated my collectors and not gone broke, I feel like I had a good chance to win it. So in my head, I'm like, I should have just won. You know?
Yeah, right. Okay.
I'm feeling like this should have been a 1-3, you know, Clo victory. So in my head, I feel like if you roll a Homeworld 2 race, whether Higaran or Vega, I feel like I've got it in the bag. However, if you roll a Homeworld 1 race, my experience versus Homeworld 1 is limited to probably, I'm going to say, less than 100 games.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to feel so great if you're Taidan or Cushion.
Yeah, and you just sent your scouts in, and the first thing you see is a Taidan scout. So, I mean, were you like, oh god, it's actually Homeworld 1 in the final game? Or what
Yeah,
were you thinking?
I'm getting nervous at this point. So I mean, honestly, I don't know what the hell I'm doing at this point. I'm gonna try to see what you're building and try to counter it, and see where it goes and cross my fingers.
Right. Oh, okay. Wow, that's a precarious place to be for the final game. All right. Well, the map is obviously Karam Wreck. Unfortunately, despite promises, no one was able to produce to me a Karam Wreck file. that didn't have the wreck in it for the finals. So I think Roby actually managed to achieve this like yesterday or something like that. But so yeah, you're moving in now. You see my carrier. So both of us actually expand to the side. A lot of players on this map will actually try and take the middle. You want to talk about like why you go sideways? Because for me, I go.
So
yeah.
the middle is very hard to contest. It's a ways from your mothership, and it's very close to your enemy. So usually you want to expand to the left, especially as Hagaran, because your carrier starts on the left. So typically everyone just kind of gone to the left because of that. If you want to stay away from your opponent. If you want to rush into your opponent, you want to move your carrier to the right of your mothership.
Yep.
The middle, you only want to do if you're going plats usually.
Yep. Exactly. So the middle is that's the hard sort of rush dedication spot. It's the platform that you spring off to try and end the game in under 10 minutes, essentially. Because like you're saying, you know, it spreads your production into a thin line. Like, especially if you're trying to make units bigger than corvettes, like destroyers, frigates, anything like that coming out of your mothership is gonna have to boat it like slowly to the middle. And obviously you're not going to be able to have the PD of your mothership. There's no way the mothership's going to get to that middle patch without bumping into the wreckage and trying to move around it and stuff like that.
So speaking of that wreckage, look at this probe I just sent in. If you send a probe next to the wreck, it's very hard for fighters to get up there and kill it. Unfortunately, I did not send it high enough into the wreck. And after I sent it, I realized my mistake. I'm like, wait a second, this is a little bit too close to the bottom of the map. It's very easy to just snipe that down.
Right.
But if you send it maybe between that big piece and the, you know, just below that big piece, it's going to be nearly impossible to kill it because that wreck's in the way.
It's really obnoxious. it's yeah. It's just one of the wonderful features of Homeworld Remastered. That.
So I want to talk a little bit about what you're doing. So you've got a fighter mod on your carrier, and I see your carrier moving in. So at this point, I'm going, oh shit, it looks like a rush.
Yeah.
Prior to this, I was expecting you to have a Corvette mod if you were rushing, and I assumed your interceptor, your fighter module would just kind of a just in case. So only now when you're on dock do I realize, oh shit, I'm being rushed.
Yep.
So look at my build. I've got a carrier coming on my mothership. I've got a few interceptors. I'm in terrible shape. I am basically screwed right now.
Yeah. So building up to this launch, I was very happy with what you were building. To be honest, yes, the low unit count is one thing, but another thing is you were making interceptors. Now, even since Homeworld 1 interceptors lost that extra health that they had for some reason, even with 666 fixed, Homeworld 1 interceptors just massacre Homeworld 2 interceptors. Like in my opinion, unless you're fighting a dedicated super hard int rush or something like that, I'd just avoid the Hagaran interceptor. Like in this kind of scenario, it's still helpful because you are kind of being rushed and you are unprepared. So having them is something, but honestly, the RUs you spent into interceptors here, if you had them in gunships instead, it would have been massively different. You are getting the gunships now, of course.
What's sad for my game plan? I was not expecting an interceptor rush from you. I was expecting if you were going to rush, it was going to be light corvettes. So I had a game plan where if I scouted corvettes on your production ships, I was going to cancel my capital facility, and I was going to get a second Corvette module on my mothership and go 2x gunships or Pulsar.
Yep.
And I would have been in great shape. So I was not expecting this interceptor rush, and as you can see, you know, with this current 2.4 patch, Hagaran interceptor just kind of don't do much at all versus the Cushion and tied-in interceptors.
Yep, exactly. So the reason I'm running away now is because 3 gunships is actually enough to, like, I don't want to fight that. 3 gunships really put the hurt on, like, they are really good against the Homeworld 1 fighters. Like, they're amazing. It's like, if I expect, to be honest, if there were more players playing Homeworld 1, someone somewhere would be grumbling that Higaran gunships are too good or something like that, and 2.4 is terrible and they don't know what they're doing and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, so I can't keep pushing. Even though I had that initial lead, I just have to run away because the gunships will massacre my fighters. I'll start to take bad trades. The other thing I'm doing actually is because I saw the corvettes, I've been teching to frigates. Like, I skipped my own corvette tech. I've just gone from fighters into frigates. So the assault frigates will hit the field.
And you'll notice I've even got a pulsar out there on my
Yes.
side because I was expecting light corvettes.
Yep.
If I would have had a gunship instead of that pulsar, I would have probably been, you know, another 30 seconds viable in this game, and wouldn't have lost so many collectors there, and would have had a little bit more of a fighting chance.
Precisely. Unfortunately though, so I've got 2 support frigates and 4 assault frigates. You can tell because the diamond on the support frigate is slightly larger, so that they must be support frigates on the TO there. My fighters are just like flying around because they're bored. I was thinking of like coming round and trying to snipe collectors or maybe a capital class facility. It doesn't really work out, obviously. My fighters just sort of fly around. We sort of vaguely trade a bit, but the gunships are there, so I can't do anything. But it's like impossible for you in this scenario, you know? You've got to dedicate
Yeah,
so
I'm
much.
still trying to counter your initial opener of interceptors, yet you've got assault frigs crashing into my carrier now.
Yep.
I'm too far behind.
So yeah, the assault frigates arrive, and initially I am shooting the collectors. Then I see you've got collector armor, which does matter a lot. So what I actually start doing is I start just hitting the carrier instead, because as you can see, it's actually already lost about 30% of its health. That was from the bombers from earlier. They did a lot of damage, so it's actually a weakened carrier, and 4 assault frigates can do decent damage to capital ships. So I start hitting the carrier instead. Fighters coming back in. The cloaks, like, going up, but will it reach in time? I actually had a collector rallied in there as well.
So at this point I have to abandon that patch. I'm going to try to take this patch on the right side instead.
Yep.
I wish I had moved that carrier that's in the middle to the right side originally.
Yes.
I kind of flip-flopped on whether I should try to hold the left or whether I should try to expand to the right. And as you can see, holding the left was a terrible idea because my carrier is going down now.
Yep. So the carrier goes down, and I feel like this is I said the reverse for myself in the previous games. You know, it's a loss that, you know, you were already losing. Oh, not losing, but in a bad position, and then just that added on top of it is it's a hat on a hat. It's so painful to lose that carrier in this scenario, you know. So I'm getting I believe that was just a repair corvette, but I do have a gravity well near my carrier there. So something you could have done, I feel like, in this scenario, you should have literally just grabbed a couple of gunships and the pulsar and swung around to my right patch where my carrier was initially. It might not have worked out, just because I've got so many fighters at this point, but in a typical game where it doesn't go quite as badly as this, definitely, you know, abuse the immobility of assault frigates. They're not like torpedo frigates where you can fire from a long distance and you're guaranteed to hit. Like, the assault frigates need to get in range, and they need to turn, and they need to fly all over the place, and the assault frigates are actually my pushing power at this point. You know, the interceptors are fine, but against upgraded collectors, like, it's noticeably difficult to kill them. So I can't really dedicate much to defending myself. But I guess I'm talking about an ideal scenario where the game's gone a bit more evenly. In this case, like, it's very difficult to dedicate anything to backstab.
Yeah, and at this point, you know, you've got bombers coming into my carrier, so I'm trying to send my swarm back to keep my other carrier from blowing up.
Yep. They do so much damage. It's such an insidious killer of carriers as well, because you don't really notice that damage, like, as it's ticking. It's not big and, like, flashy and noticeable like heavy missile damage will chunk your carrier very suddenly. The bombers, like, slowly sort of whittle it down and down and down and down, and then suddenly you look at it and it's like, oh my god, my carrier's on 20% health. I mean, look at it. It's on 50%.
Yeah.
Like, that's just from a small wing of bombers.
So see what I did there? You can move your carrier up, and as the bombers are making their attack run downwards, they will lose about half of their attack run as the carrier is moving upwards. So
Yep.
that's one thing you can do to micro against bombers attacking in.
Yep. So the destroyer is obviously very cost efficient against the assault frigates, but I've got like, what is that, 8 assault frigates? I'm pretty sure the destroyer only recently got its armor upgrade as well, so it has been fighting for at least part of its lifetime with less armor than it should have had. Now, destroyers, the tankiness of a destroyer can't be laughed at, right? This destroyer now, especially now it's got the collectors healing it, and the fact that they're bulky collectors as well, so I can't really just shoot them off. This destroyer is actually unkillable for this amount of assault frigates. I say unkillable, I mean with kiting it's unkillable. If you just stood there I probably would have been able to take it, but I would have lost every single assault frigate trying to do that. So instead of like continuing to shoot the destroyer and waste my time, I'm just going to try and kill any collectors that are mining.
Yeah. And at this point, you know, you'll notice my swarm is evaporated over all of your assault frigates, and with your continuous production of corvettes and fighters, and you know, my destroyers are alive, great, but I'm, you know, barely harvesting on, you know, 1.5 patches right now, and I don't have anything left fighter-wise.
Yep. So the destroyer is actually way above 70 already. But then again, 3 more assault frigates have suddenly joined the fight. So it's yeah, it's like you're saying. It's similar to how I felt in the previous 2 games. It was sort of like, I just don't have what I need. Like, even if I make the correct units or X, Y, and Z, it's just like, I just don't have the amount of stuff. Like, in this scenario, like, there's no one unit that you can make. You know, if you make destroyers, sure, you'll beat the frigates, but the heavy corvettes. If you make pulsars, I mean, the assault frigates are just going to kill them. If you make interceptors, obviously they're kind of bad. The gunships are countered already by 2 units I already have. It's even with a better economy, it would be difficult in this scenario to actually stop me from killing your collectors at the very least. So the heavy corvettes are also mixed in here, and even with the armor upgrade, the Homeworld 2 collectors are just gonna, like, there's nothing they can do.
So one cute thing you saw me doing a second ago, I turned my mothership to the right. As I was explaining with the bombers, you can move your carrier vertically. For your mothership, you can actually spin it to the right, and that will have the same effect. It will shorten the attack run of the bombers trying to kill your capital facility.
Yep.
And they'll only do, you know, maybe 75% of their attack run, and your capital ship module will live a little bit longer.
Especially against Homeworld 1 bombers, the projectile speed on the Homeworld 1 plasma bomb is very low. Actually, if you have a carrier from Homeworld 2, even like a Vega carrier with a big, huge facility on it, if you just move it forward, and I'm trying to shoot a module, like that module, it won't die. I just can't hit it. But yeah, there's the GG no calls, which is absolutely true. You've got 3 left. 4, sorry. Just the sort of face roll, kind of like, hi, I'm here. Suddenly you've got like a million interceptors and everything's on top of you, and it's yeah, just unfortunate that I actually managed to roll Homeworld 1 at the end there.
Unfortunately for me, very fortunate for you.
yeah. I was very happy when I saw I rolled Titan. I was like, yes, finally. I rolled Vega twice in a row, and I was like, oh god, not Vega again. So I was like, if I roll Vega again, I might. Oh god. But there's the Cloaked Scuttle.
Yeah, certainly Fear is the Homeworld 1 master, and I've certainly got the leg up on Homeworld 2, but when it comes to Homeworld 1, I've got a lot to learn still.
Yeah. So there it is, and that, ladies and gents, is Balcora Cup. That was the grand final. I'll see if I can catch the stat screen if it ever pops up. But yeah, so I actually do manage to win my own tournament, but it was very close.
Congratulations, Fear.
Yeah, thank you very much. But it was very close during that final. You know, the 3-2 scoreline. That's as close as you can get in a obviously in a best of 5. I was thinking of making it best of 7, but we just don't have the map pool. And honestly, Homeworld is a slower kind of game, so I felt like a best of 7 would be so long that people would just like fall asleep during it. But
Yep.
yeah, you can see just because of the collector's loss during the scuffling that you know, once you build a lead like that, it's so hard to come back. Like the resources total and like yeah, it's just like you even killed more ships than me. Oh, I guess the Homeworld 1 ships, but still, ships built was just so much higher because it was just so much strike coming out in such a short time, and it was just an overwhelm. It was just like a Zerg rush, really. You know, it's suddenly, you know, I'm playing my game. Oh, suddenly I've got a million units on top of me, and literally doesn't matter how well I micro. It's curtains. But so yeah, I feel like both of us showing our inexperience, right, in certain aspects of the game. So
Oh, definitely.
I'm showing my inexperience in the Homeworld 2 versus Homeworld 2 late game. I'm just really, it's nothing I'm interested in. It's nothing I've ever aimed for, and it's nothing that I've had to really do against most players. Whereas you come from a time where the Homeworld 2 versus Homeworld 2 late game was the thing. Like, you know, cruiser, micro, destroyers, all this kind of stuff was so essential. So you've got that massive backlog of experience to draw on and like make the correct units, move them in the correct way, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, unfortunately, you know, the Homeworld 1 roll at the end, that's where your inexperience is, right? You know, the matchup there, what units to make, where to put them, how many collectors you should make, like what to scout for, like the tells, like not just the things like that, but all the subtle things that let you win the Homeworld 2 matchup and make it look so one-sided. That came in during Game 5 in the opposite direction, so yeah. But good games anyway, so it was a really good
Yeah,
final. It was
great
really
games.
fun to play. It got very tense at the end. I thought, oh my god, this is Game 5. I can't believe it. But yeah. Anyway, that's Balcora Cup, guys. From here on out, I don't know what I'm going to post. I'll probably do like an overview or something of Homeworld 1. I don't know what I'm going to do. But there
Yeah,
should
and
be...
you know, you got that 2v2. You want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, so that Balcora Cup, this is Balcora Cup 1. There'll probably be a Balcora Cup 2, not too far from now. It'll probably be a month or two or something like that. That's going to be a 2v2 tournament. So I feel like that should be very interesting because obviously 1v1 is very interesting. There's a lot of cool things you can do. I feel like in 2v2, you know, it actually, unusually for an RTS, in my opinion, Homeworld Remastered is actually potentially more interesting as a 2v2 game than a 1v1 game, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
Yep.
because of all the unit trades you can do and all the, especially now that Homeworld 1 is in the game, we haven't really seen any like high level team strategies being pulled out, you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
Homeworld 1 have these support tools like Gravwells and support frigates. And Vega can pull out things like hyperspace gates. I don't know, like there's all of these things that are yet to be explored and how they interact with the other races. And it should be really interesting to see how people cobble together strategies that may not have even been conceived of yet, right? You know,
Yep.
you know, transfer your advanced module carrier to your Higaran ally. Suddenly he can build all of these units and then transfer it back and things like that, and just cycle it around and all of this stuff that I feel like a lot of the player base right now just has no idea about. I should definitely link them to the, what is it, Demon Clan or something like that, the forums where all of these strategies are like posted.
Oh yeah, so you know, demonclan.org, if you want to check it out. It was one of the forums from Homeworld 2 Classic. You know, a lot of the top players used to post a few strategies on there. You know, this was just one of many forums, but it's one of the few that's still online. So you can certainly find some old Homeworld 2 strategies and discussions out there. Some of it's still going to be quite applicable. You know, other things might be phased out a bit, but you know, I've been playing Homeworld 2 Classic forever, since the early 2000s. So Hagen Vager are still probably 90 to 95% the same, and a good chunk of the strategies still work today.
Yep, absolutely. Like the specific things to look out for on that site are things like maybe not build orders and stuff like that, but like concepts like swapping a carrier that has modules on it. Like to give someone a leg up that would be impossible for them to get in a regular 2v2, or like, oh, what if I mix the units from this race with this race to cover a certain weakness, and stuff like that is really what to look out for. But hopefully in the 2v2 tournament we see some really creative strategies, and definitely some of the funnest games I've had so far, even without all that, has been 2v2. Like Arm for Burial, as it turns out, is a really great 2v2 map as well as a great 1v1 map. So hopefully we'll also have some more maps by that point, because we've got some more maps being looked at to be released in maybe an updated Ace Maps or something like that. I'm not really sure what's going on with that, but
yeah. So planning on doing a map pack update. It's been a long time coming. We're hoping to get some more 4v4 maps included, some more 2v2 and 1v1 maps. There's already a ton of 3v3 maps, so probably won't be adding too many of those. But just give a better selection of maps for the map pool, and make some of these games more interesting.
absolutely. Anyway, guys, that's gonna be it. That's Balcora Cup finished. So yeah, he's hoping I don't run out of steam and stop uploading like I did last time. I went like a whole year without an upload, but I promise it won't be like that. Anyway, guys, I'll catch you in the next video. Bye bye.